They're not seeing any immediate benefits. And I will say, I've heard Krystal point that out. The other thing is, I think right here, what she's saying is that she is conflicted with the lesser of two evilism. And here's my hope. I know where we are, and I know where a lot of our comrades are on this. We're not voting Democrat. We never voted, most of us, I assume, Republican, but we are done with incrementalism and, in the name of preventing Trump or whoever. But there are folks, and I'm seeing cracks in the system, and this genocide has, I think, really shone a light on these folks in the Biden administration. And I think I'm seeing some cracks in the system. Maybe I'm being overly optimistic, but all it takes is a few who have a more mainstream audience to say, listen, I don't know that I can vote for him. Now, the other thing is, I also don't care how somebody else votes. If the information that's being presented that they're giving with their analysis makes it clear to a lot of other people that Biden isn't worth voting for, then they've served a purpose. But I do believe, and it is my hope, that there are going to be some people who are a little more, I wouldn't say she's in the center, but a little more establishment friendly and adjacent. I think you're going to see a few of them, not on MSNBC or CNN, but on independent media. I think you might see a few say something. And why I think that's important is it helps give space for the folks that aren't where we are to know that, maybe I'm not going to vote for him this time around. Because that's my hope, that it's not just us on the left who consider ourselves radical leftists who stay home this time or vote third party. That's my hope. But I guess time will tell. But I can tell you, I'm hearing from a lot of people, and I don't think this is a surprise, they just can't stomach a vote for Biden. I'm hearing it way more than I heard it in 2020.
Me too.
I'm hearing it way more than I heard it about Hillary in 2016. I think, we warned Kit, Jay, Nick, Sabby, all of us, we warned people. A guy who was accused credibly of sexually assaulting a staffer. People, that's narcissistic behavior. That's sociopathic behavior. Folks who do those kinds of things don't think twice about genocide. And my concern was, of course, I didn't want to vote for somebody who was accused of sexual violence, which is why I didn't vote for Biden. And of course, I would never vote for Trump. But the other piece is people who do those things, they're not going to think twice about letting 2 million children, people, half of them children, starve. Because they don't really, that's why they, I think, push so hard the idea of Joe Biden being empathetic, because it's the opposite of what he is. He's a narcissist. And, we are not shocked that he's doing these things. Some of the people in Krystal's orbit may be shocked that they're doing these things. We're not, because we knew. But I also always want to make room or leave space for those who aren't where we are yet to get there. Because our movement is going to take a lot more than just us. And that's all I'm saying. I'm not pinning hopes on any pundit. I don't have a lot of hope for Emma. And yes, she does look extremely low energy and sad. I don't know what's her problem, but maybe she knows what she's saying is just horrible, and at some point it starts to eat you away.
It does. It will. I mean, that's the truth for anyone who lies. I mean, eventually they that starts consuming them, and they realize oh, gee, how am I going to sell this? How am I going to sell this? And they can't.
But the last thing is that I would encourage folks. I mean, listen, if you have limited time and you can't watch it, don't. But some of Krystal's monologues have been scathing against Biden. And when I hear somebody like that go there, I think, listen, more and more people are seeing it. And that, even if that's all it is, I'm just happy that we're not.
No, and I like you and I would say probably Chuck Modi both kind of speak from this sort of framing. And like this is what we always say: everybody has a different place in a revolution, and I'm talking about a revolution of consciousness. I feel like RBN is the person or the entity that is pushing the hardest from the furthest left space. That is our job to do that. That's not everybody's job. So it is our job to go, hey, wake up. You get what I'm saying? To be that
you have to
very in your face. That is our job. And it speaks to our influence. And I've been meaning to figure out a place to fit this in. RBN's influence is outsized from the actual numbers you see, because our influence is through people who watch us. The people who are making content watch us.
Yes.
So our influence is way outsized than what the numbers actually say. And we know that that's the reason why it's our job to push the hardest.
You know,
because the people who are half as radical as us, if we're pushing them hard, the inch that they move is because of us. You get what I'm saying? So whatever size of the movement that the person makes is not the point. It's that they're moving, and that's what we're here is to move whatever amount, move you. But go ahead. One of you were going to time me. I can't tell.
Go ahead, Anthony. Take it.
I just said it's. I was just talking about the podcast to a friend last night, and I said they don't have a huge following on YouTube, but very important people watch their content.
Precisely.
And they influence people, and it's kind of like the influence of a Fred Hampton or a Malcolm X on the Martin Luther King wing of the civil rights movement. You needed that Fred Hampton and that Malcolm X to be the more radical voices, so MLK seemed more reasonable. And you know, I just think there's an old band that I love called the Velvet Underground. Lou Reed was fronting it, and there's a common thing that said they're one of the most influential bands in like kind of underground rock. And there's an old thing that people say that only 1,000 people bought the first Velvet Underground album, but every one of them started a band. And I think that's the influence of RBN. You know, YouTube is suppressing you. Twitter suppresses you. I retweet. I'll get 1,000 likes on a tweet on a daily basis. I tweet RBN content. It gets like 24 likes. Obviously, it's suppressed, but the right people are getting your content. Same thing, with Kit, and I think you're both having a very significant effect. Thankfully.
But here's my thing, because I see a lot of people in the chat also saying, well, these two people, Emma and Krystal, they got the large platform. Perhaps they're acting like actresses and they're putting on a show because they see the work that RBN does, Hard Lens, Indie, Do Dissidents, all that kind of stuff. And the thing is, it's like, okay, they'll click, copy, and paste our notes or say things that we have said on our shows respectively. But then at the end of the day, there's always that twist of, we got to vote Democrat, and this time we got to hold their feet to the fire, because I'm always prepared for that hammer to drop. I'm always ready for it because I've seen it happen before. And, to your point, you do bring up an interesting aspect of, okay, maybe there's a change, but these people know where their bread and butter comes from, and that is being, nice to the Democrats, getting access to politicians, and making sure that people don't rock the boat too much, because there is always that. There's always that aspect of them keeping the system in order. Even though it's starting to fall apart, they know that it's falling apart. And I just feel like this is a show that they're trying to put on too, for everybody to maybe let our guard down, or either that maybe they come back into the clubhouse and imagine Krystal and RBN doing a live stream together, maybe doing a collaboration, because that's always the goal, to maybe be there. And then once everything's all right, they can ditch everyone like that.
But even if
I don't know.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead, bro. Go ahead, Anthony.
even if somebody like Krystal did say that this time around, because she did say it in 2020, like, I still have to stop Trump, so I'm going to vote Biden reluctantly, even if that's what she ends up saying. And I'm not sure she will this time, but who knows? She's put out enough content critical of this administration where I don't think that means our viewers are just going to say, all right, well, then I will too.
Right.
And so that's why I always say,
like you're saying she's put out enough scathing reporting that her audience, the reporting has been so good and on point that her audience, they're not just gonna follow her. Some people are not gonna go, oh yeah, I'm hopping on that board because she's provided. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think people listen to what, if somebody says how they're voting, most folks don't. Oh, okay, then I should too. I don't like endorsements. Endorsements to me are fairly useless. And the other thing is, like, their show, like Sagar and her, their reporting on Ukraine from day one has been, this war is a terrible idea. We need to push for a ceasefire. And I like that there are people that are more mainstream that are getting that message, because they're not getting it on CNN. They're not getting it on MSNBC. So I look at my allies where I can get them. I don't expect them to be where I am, but I'm just hoping the truth gets out, because if you tell the truth about the Biden administration, it's going to be scathing, because they're god-awful. They're terrible. We've known it from day one. We knew Obama, was the drone king. So, like, the crowd that still thinks Obama is a good guy, we've been way beyond that for years now. But I'll tell you, there were some people in my ranks, friends of mine that I knew from Occupy Wall Street 11 years ago, 12 years ago, who worked for Obama in 2008. And then they did a 180. And they're like, I'm done with Democrats. I've seen the evolution. And I'm seeing it from more and more people. Like, I hear people that normally aren't very politically oriented, who just would normally vote for Democrats, say, I don't know that I can this time.
I'm having those conversations too, and they are they're incredible, because I've had people who I was friends with in college, a few, I guess last year. So I think sometime in November, I was at a luncheon with some friends. They were doing a little barbecue, and they were just saying, I just can't vote Biden. I just can't do it. And this is before everything really intensified, was the war that started on October 7th of last year. And they're all saying, like, Biden's failing on this, Biden's failing on that. I don't think I could support him. He's too old. And these were people who've been diehard Democrats for quite some time. And they're like, Kit, is this how you felt when you broke away from voting Democrats? And I'm like, and I said, it's quite liberating, isn't it? Now that you're realizing that you're the person who was abusing you didn't like you. And they were like, yeah, it is quite refreshing, because they're seeing that different mindset, and they're not letting. I had one person who was a diehard Democrat say to me, at least Trump was funny. That was it. I was like, look, not a defense of Trump, but it's like, at least he was funny. Of course, Trump is just like any other warmongering president, but all right, there you go. At least there was something with that.
Let's get back to the video, just so we can get through this, so we can get to the next one, because I'm curious. There's only 30 seconds left in this. I do want to give her the final word, because to Anthony's point, the way she described what Joe Biden is doing is spot on and scathing. And so I think it speaks to what you were saying about the content that she's putting out. So let me let her finish her point, and then we can move to John Fettermen. I'm going to squeeze the Columbia student story in at the fifth story. Story, Anthony. Okay, so here we go.
Better than anyone in my lifetime on labor. His administration's been very good on antitrust. Like, there were things to affirmatively support there. But then on the other side, there's just a moral red line where you say aiding and abetting, and really it goes beyond aiding and abetting, facilitating a genocide, a crime against humanity, the worst of the atrocities probably that we've seen in our lifetime. Like, facilitating that is just a kind of moral red line that does hit a little different, where it becomes, listen, I'm not under any illusion that, like, not voting for Joe Biden I'm not an accelerationist I don't believe in this. Like, oh, if we withhold our votes, then that's going to show them and they're going to do this and that and the other. And maybe the Trump administration, actually, it'll be better for, like, I'm under no illusions about that because we already had one Trump administration. But I'm just not sure, for me, from just a basic principle moral perspective, that I can vote for someone who is facilitating, running cover for, shipping the bombs for a genocide. So that's where I am.
So yeah, I thought I watched the live stream.
But it's also about not ignoring.
It wasn't live when I watched it, but a couple of hours after the stream had stopped, I saw, Krystal was on the show. Let me fast forward and see what the conversation is about. And I was pleasantly surprised to hear what I was hearing. I was like, wow, she is actually not falling in line, at least not yet, over Joe Biden. I was like, wow, this is refreshing. So I clipped it and put it out there, and it's gotten some good reception where people, some people are still negative, saying, whatever, she's just gonna fall in line. But then there's others that's like, we're hope that she has made a pivot, because if genocide does not do it, then the question becomes, like, really, what does, like, what does do it? Like, there can't be anything that does it if genocide is not sort of one of those things. Did either of you want to briefly kind of give a closing statement on the Krystal video before we get to this Fettermen video here?
I'll keep it short. Like, we could speculate on what will happen a few months down the road, but if both Emma and Krystal are coming to the realization that voting Democrat and supporting Biden or whoever else the Democrats are going to put forward is a waste of time, then I welcome it, okay? And if they just say, hey, we were wrong about it, then okay, whatever. God bless, great. We all have to come to the realization that both parties are inherently corrupt. So if they do stay consistent, fine. I think it's a sign of good things, all right? So who knows? Maybe they will be consistent. Maybe, but I've been disappointed before.
Any final words, Anthony? Or are you already giving your final words, sir? Oh, he's muted. Oh no final words. All right, so let me make sure I don't have too many super chats. I'll read the 4, just so to give it a little bit of a break here. Let's start with this first one. I think that's £1, 5 pounds. Thank you for the super chat, and that's Half Dahlia. I think that's how you say it. I support vote shaming in 2024, meaning to anybody who decides to vote Dem. That's pretty funny. This next one, thank you for the support. Is that Warren West L? I think that's how you say it. The same 2 donors control Trump and Biden. Signed, Facts. And I completely agree with that. This next one from Todd. She hasn't grown up or learned to be better. Breaking Point subs are in the toilet, so she has to pivot. Just saying, she still vote Biden. So Todd is a little bit what is it, in the bear market on Krystal. Let's be positive. Some of us are trying to be more on the positive side and give her a little bit of a space to see what happens. This next one, but thank you, Todd, for that super chat. This next one from Old Crow. I'm not into the party thing, but I find it odd. I need glasses. I find it odd how divisive conservative personalities are when I assume they would try to get the Black and Arab vote, but they rather pursue division. It's theater. That is a good point, because they see, just imagine, Trump wouldn't mean it, just like he doesn't mean it on Ukraine. Just imagine if Trump said ceasefire and we need to stop supporting. Imagine, you know what I'm saying? Like, imagine that. That would be insane, but it would be a position that it would literally be like a vacuum, because there's no other establishment figure saying anything like that. This last one from Janice, and then we'll get back to the stories. Krystal Ball is going to do the same thing as she did in 2020, criticize Dems using our lingo, then justify voting Biden. I'm pretty sure that means Biden closer to the election. Isn't the first time. So Janice is betting her money in Vegas on the odds, but some of us are going to be a little bit more positive. I think I'm going to lean with Anthony and hope that because when you see these movements left or towards a position you feel is more humane, you would hope that is more permanent than temporary. So I'm just saying, let's hope, let's all, send some positive vibes and hope that this is more permanent, because it would be groundbreaking for it to be permanent, because think of how she's going to frame it to her audience. And that's what really matters, is getting the masses and their consciousness to sort of grow. But let's get right into this video.
Here we go.
And we're going to be talking about immigration. That's sort of the main story of this. We're going to do the AOC story next, and then the Joe, and then the Columbia story. But so hopefully you guys have the time. Let me know how you're doing. I've had all day, so I'm going to be here as long as the stories take. But let's listen to John Fettermen. He covers a couple of things, but I think the thing that most of us are going to be that stands out is that he's asked to give advice to Joe Biden on how to reach young people, because I guess apparently he's doing a good job at young people outreach, maybe. But let's listen to him. He also talks about immigration, which is another topic we're talking about today.
Senator John Fettermen, it's good to have you on the show this morning. A lot of questions for you about what the Biden campaign can do moving forward. And I think one of the big ones is, how do they approach the constant disinformation from Republicans who right now blaming the Biden administration for not closing the border?
Well, closing the border, I think the president has been very clear that he has to act about that, and I fully support that as well too. And now the Republicans are never going to have a kind of a deal now, because they don't want that, because it's too valuable to have that as a weapon. And I think now it's also could be helpful to just bring HR 2 onto the table and almost kind of challenge them to let's say, hey, here we go. Are we willing to go this far? Because we do need to make sure that this border needs to be secure.
Okay, can you pause it here for 1 second? Okay, so look at this.
I think he means secure. I think he means secure when he said that.
Yeah. First of all, that wasn't a coherent sentence, nor was it an answer. And I played this video on my show. I recently clipped it too on my channel. And this man is incapable of answering any of these people. And if you just look at this, it's like an episode from Sesame Street. One of these people's not like the other. One of these people's not dressed. Like, I understand when we do our show, our podcast, respect, we dress how we want. But my God, you're in front of the American people. This man is in a hoodie. He dresses like a homeless person and walks around the Capitol building. And this is supposed to be a United States senator. People of Pennsylvania, be better. Do better. You deserve to be represented.
And just the way he speaks, I was going to stop it at the same point and just have a similar sort of analysis, is that he doesn't seem to be all that intellectual. He seems, and maybe that could be it. Maybe that's what I'm seeing and what I'm reading as anti-intellectual, but it seems like very basic knowledge. And I'm not, because I was going to ask, like, who is John Fettermen here? Who is his audience? I don't understand who his audience is. Like, they're bringing him on so he can speak to who? That's the part that I'm not really seeing in John Fettermen. But go ahead if you wanted to chime in.
And again, the point of him not being intellectual, he did have a stroke. He's had his fair share of health problems, and we have seen him struggle to be coherent to the press, or even when he's presiding in the U.S. Senate. This is somebody who is just, throughout this entire interview, is going to deflect and not answer any of these questions. And yet these quote unquote journalists and pundits that are on BSDNC, on Morning Blow, are going to try and treat this as somebody who's a man of the people and who's reasonable. There's nothing reasonable, John Fettermen, when he's instigating and provoking people, waving the Israeli flag and trying to justify the genocidal actions that's happening in Gaza. This is not a serious person. This is a person who is not well and not fit for office, just like Joe Biden.
I concur. Let's listen a little. Go ahead, Anthony. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, John Fettermen is the biggest fraud out there, or one of them. He's a Harvard grad, okay, and so he dresses like this. This was a decision somewhere along the line. You know what? He was in politics in Pennsylvania. Some Democrats. This is how I think it works. The DNC gets wind of him. He connects with working class, blue collar folks. Okay, let's get this guy dressing a certain way. In the primaries, when he was running for Senate, he said he supported Medicare for all. Said he was a Bernie guy. I think that was all part of the plot, the fraud, and to make him look like he might be like us. He's not. And then he gets in, he does this complete 180. He's not just, hey, listen, we got to stand with Israel. They're our ally. I don't agree with that, but I know that there are folks just saying that. He has gone hard, pro the worst right-wing elements in Israel, pro-genocide, and he still walks around. First of all, he looks like a slob. I agree. You get a job in the Senate. There's a little bit of decorum.
Yep. At least dress the part. All right. Even
Show
George Santos had the audacity to dress reasonably. Okay. And George Santos is not all there.
Listen, I miss George Santos for the same reason that comedians miss Donald Trump. He was funny.
Yes.
He was the gift that kept giving. And I'm from Long Island, so he was in the district next to mine. But at least he wore his suit and tie. But his language problem is from his stroke. He's still slightly aphasic, meaning the language centers of his brain were damaged by the stroke, which is awful. He's a young guy. I had a lot of sympathy when I heard that happen to him. And I applaud his fighting through his recovery, but I don't think he's fit to be a senator, not because of his health problems, but because he does not stand for the people, and he is really, I think he used left-wing rhetoric to get elected and then turned on those that supported him in a very significant and cynical way. And I just think that's why I call him a fraud. He's horrible. And I try not to listen to anything he says ever, because it just makes me angry.
All right, let's try to get through some of this then, because it is hard. I must admit, watching him is hard, but let's try to get through a little bit more of this, and then we'll get to the AOC calling out Joe Biden over immigration.
And Al Sharpton with us, Senator, and he has the next question. Reverend Al.
Senator, one of the things I've watched as you began campaigning for Biden is dealing with the fact that there's misinformation and a lot of noise on the right that are the ones that are supporting Trump. But you've also said that you're not going to let people just answer with noise on the so-called left, that you're going to try to do what you think is right for the American people. Talk about it a little, that we do not need to counterbalance misinformation and noise and things that are being demonstrated by the zealots on the right, but that we need to define what's good for Americans. I think that that's the kind of road you're trying to project in your taking on so-called progressives, who I call latte liberals, who want to imprison you with an ideology rather than deal with what people want to see done in this country.
Well, the Republicans are shameless, and they've always been that way. And I don't know why anybody is surprised that now that they have any kind of shame at all. And they're willing to lie. And they're right now, Vance just pointed out that he's lying about the Ukrainian aid. And it's very clear that all of that aid is going right to American companies that produce these kind of munitions as well, too. They're willing to carry any water for Trump. And I'm not sure where this kinds of now fetish for Russia ever became as well. But I'm old enough to remember when it used to be the evil empire And now you have a part of the Republican Party that are willing to stand with them, and they're actually embracing them as well, too. And it's truly astonishing that you are willing to to let Ukraine fail as well. It's absolutely astonishing. They assassinate top critics, and they are now have been empowered to act that way. And I don't know why we can't just want to lean in and deliver for both Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan.
What I don't understand about John Fettermen, or what I haven't been able to grasp yet and have a firm opinion on, whether or not he changed or whether this guy was a Trojan horse from the beginning.
Trojan horse.
To be
Trojan
progressive.
horse. Trust your gut. Trust your gut. Trust your gut, CJ.
Trust my gut. No, I didn't really know, because literally, it's like, even though we cover it, but I think Nick covers John Fettermen more than I do, so I know slightly less about John Fettermen, and I just hadn't seen enough to really form an opinion, because this is the reason. Because to be this bad, to be this bad on so many different levels, but to be known as a progressive, it just seems to be a very large gap. And either he had to be lying from the jump, or something
lying from the jump.
Once he got elected, they put fear into him or something. But no. You think it's from the beginning? But go ahead.
From the beginning, I mean, actions speak louder than words. I mean, let's not forget, this is the same John Fettermen who chased a young black teenager with a shotgun down the street and never apologized for it. I mean, his own actions and where he stands on issues. He saw the Bernie Sanders movement. He jumped on top of it, capitalized on it. But within his own personal opinions, this is how he feels, because he too also suffers from the fear of Donald Trump getting reelected into office. And so anytime there's talk about withholding aid from Ukraine, even though Ukraine is a ridiculous proxy war that has cost us billions in treasury, countless lives forever lost, a nation forever scarred, and we're the ones flipping the bill for it, by the way. I would say John Fetterman's always been this way, and he wants people to feel guilty for having the audacity to say, maybe we should stop this war in Ukraine, maybe we should stop giving all this aid here, maybe we should have diplomatic talks, because he's probably in on it too for the military-industrial complex. Fettermen hates, he hates the fact that people are actually thinking for themselves, and look, he's getting criticized. Look at how he's reacting to anti-war protesters. He's waving the Israeli flag. I mean, there's been numerous incidents on social media where he's instigating and provoking people, actions unbecoming of a U.S. senator. And I get it. We have Republican and Democratic politicians who like to troll people, but not to the point where this guy's acting like a schoolyard bully or some hick down the road. He is acting like a real jagoff here. And he is once again projecting his feelings and his emotions onto people, because people are waking up. And he's gonna once again start telling people, well, I guess Russia's the evil empire. Okay, well, Russia's the evil empire. What about our actions? Is it not evil? Endless forever war? If Russia's the evil empire, shouldn't we be doing everything to promote diplomacy and peace talks? But oh no, we're provoking it. We're provoking more wars. War in Yemen, war in Iran, war with Taiwan. I mean, Taiwan, for Christ's sakes. Nancy Pelosi flying there almost provoked the Chinese a full-scale military action. And corporate media did this ridiculous segment of what would happen if China and America fought each other. I talked about it on JB's show like a year ago when that first happened. My God, people are talking about, here's an exciting war game, U.S. versus China. Spoiler alert, the nukes will be a-flying when that happens, if that happens.
They've done war games many times, and we've lost like something in the 80th percentile. That's not a fight we want with China. But let's get back to this video. Let's listen a little more to this obvious psyop called John Fettermen, because again, he's a Harvard graduate, but even before the stroke, he had this demeanor. He was playing this, Pennsylvania working class Joe sort of persona, and that's just not him.
Senator, good morning. It's great to have you on the show. Just want to get a sense from you on the ground in Pennsylvania, a state that, again, obviously will be pivotal to the presidential election as it was and so close, and Joe Biden won in 2020. What's your sense of the feeling on the ground there? We have economic data that shows a very strong economy, but a lot of people in our country aren't feeling that right now. What do you think will tilt this election one way or another in your pivotal state come fall?
It's going to be close. I've always predicted that it was going to be really close back in 2016. And the polls really predicted that Clinton was going to walk in Pennsylvania. And I knew that wasn't going to happen. The same thing in 2020 as well, too. Biden has up maybe 5 points back in 2020. And I'm like, that's just not true. And now it's very close. And that's the same thing is going to be in 24 as well, too. And I do fundamentally believe that Biden is going to carry that as well. And I'm proud to campaign for him, just the way I was proud to campaign with him in 22. When now people were saying that it's not popular enough to be seen with them, and I'm proud to be seen with them anytime.
What was that?
That was a Zoom filter. It was confetti. It was now it happened live on air. Woo! Celebration, genocide. There you go.
Wait, did Case Study put that in there?
No. Oh, Case Study is innocent. Hashtag Case Study's innocent. He had nothing to do with that. That was on MSNBC and John Fetterman.
Wow.
Could we rewind that just a second?
Yeah.
I want to.
Yeah, that was weird. Yeah, I would definitely rewind that. But that was weird here. Let's watch and let it play out.
I'm going to carry that as well. And I'm proud to campaign for him, just the way I was proud to campaign with him in 22, when now people were saying that it's not popular enough to be seen with him. And I'm proud to be seen with him anytime as well. He's been an incredible president.
Senator, we just had an amusing Zoom filter moment there. Good to see you this morning. Let me ask you about right now. There were some concerns about President Biden's popularity with the core pieces of the Democratic base, including progressives, young people, some of whom you've really reached in your campaign. What does this message need to be to them to make sure they come out for him this November and don't opt to stay home or find a third-party candidate?
So John Fettermen, Morning Joe, Anthony and Kit, they said, hey, we're doing bad in the young people and progressive department. Who can we tap who has a good relationship with young people and progressives recently? Who can we tap? John Fettermen, the guy who's literally been mocking people, the guy who literally had a constituent removed physically away because he's wondering about the genocide by his security. Like, that's the guy they're tapping for advice on how to speak to that constituency. And it begs the question again, what I asked earlier is, who is Morning Joe bringing John Fettermen on for? And it's my belief is that John Fettermen, to their audience, to their donor sort of 55 plus audience, John Fettermen in their narrative is the progressive, but he's the progressive who's making all the right decisions, lining up with establishment. So that's who you would want to bring on as a representative of the progressives if you are an establishment channel. That's the only angle I can see this being a benefit, because he's not here to get some audience members who might be on the fence who's watching Morning Joe. I don't think that's the play they're making. But let's listen to a little bit more, and then we can move on to AOC here.
Well, I think the president has done an incredible job as well too, and by any metric now, the president has been incredibly strong as well too now. And if you are talking about young progressives, it's like literally yesterday he now is canceling more student debt as well too. And now you have in Alabama now you have embryos now having called real beings as well too. I mean, look at the kinds of things. This election is always about two very stark choices as well. And that's the kind of thing I talked about in Reno as well, too. It's like we have a major choice in our America, what we want to be for the next 4 years as well, too. And Joe Biden has done an incredibly tough job as well, too. And now I can't imagine why that Trump is competitive, but he is. And now he has now he can't be canceled now by anybody at this point. So now there's only one person. I believe there's only one person now that can beat Trump, and that's Joe Biden, because right now he's the only person in America that actually has beaten Trump in a powerless election.
Now, understand, the question was, Mr. John Fetterman, what advice do you give to Joe Biden on how to talk to progressives? He proceeded to talk to the progressives on why they should be voting for Joe Biden. And it's this sort of response. It's very android-like, the way that he behaves. And maybe you, Anthony, maybe you can say that it could be part of just, sort of the residual effects of his stroke. But he's very like, yes, man. Yes, like they ask anything. It's like, I love Joe Biden. You know what I mean? It seems very like I have a gun to my head sort of vibe. Like, yes, I love Joe Biden. He's doing great. He's just the best person in the world. I love him. It's very.
Can we just look at Mika's expression right there for a moment? Because Mika, I have to say, when he said Joe Biden is the only person that could beat Donald Trump, she was kind of laughing and grinning, and I think she knows that's just bullshit. I mean, if I were a centrist establishment Dem, I wouldn't want Joe Biden, because I'm not saying Joe Biden can't win. He is the incumbent, and he can win. However, he is the worst seated incumbent going into a re-election race that we've seen in our lifetime. And if you're an establishment person, you know this, and that's why behind the scenes they're all talking about what do we need to do to replace him. And by the way, I agree with Kit. I've been saying this for over a year now, probably 2 years. Joe Biden, I firmly believe he will not be the nominee.
Yeah, exactly. I've had that conversation with Keaton. I believe 2 weeks ago when I was co-hosting the show. I see in Chicago something happening to where he is not named the nominee. It's in all seriousness, something's going to happen at the convention.
Here's the thing: his health.
Yeah,
Joe Biden shows obvious signs of cognitive decline consistent with age-related dementia. He is not well physically or cognitively, and anybody who knows anything about how that goes, it doesn't get better. No. And sometimes the declines can be very precipitous. And all of a sudden, boom, you'll know if that's happening when he is out of the public eye for 2 or 3 weeks, because they won't know what to do with him. I'm going to say this, and I don't wish this on him, but he is not a healthy 81. Bernie is a year older. Bernie talks. Forget our political problems with Bernie right now.
Mm-hmm. Bernie, no, he seems very fine. He seems fine.
He's like he was in 2016. Biden has declined a lot. The State of the Union is March 18th or something. It's in the next 2 weeks. I'm sorry, almost a month, a little less than a month. If something happens, at any time, he can have another drop downhill. So I just don't think he's going to be the nominee. And as far as what's wrong with Fettermen, absolutely his lack of emotional affect when he talks. All of this could be related to his health issue.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But he is just repeating talking points too. And I've been saying this, and I don't think that it's definitely going to happen, but Fetterman is positioning himself to run or to be considered on the short list for VP for somebody. He has jumped in there. I don't think it's a realistic thing, but he is when you see somebody go all in for Israel, when they that's really that hard, what's going on.
You really think they put him on the short list, or maybe he positioned himself to put himself on the short list for VP?
I think they
Wow.
want him
May
as an
want to
option.
be.
Oh, wow.
And I think they want him as an option because he's got that. I used to be a leftist. Maybe people will still be fooled. And look how I dress, kids. Do you know anybody in their 20s? Do you know anybody in their 20s that looks at this guy and sees him as like hip and cool? That's the same thing as like trying to get Kamala to get the youth vote.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody
trying to get any votes for Kamala. That's for trying to get
Kamala's not going to get anybody. Even the dead won't vote for Kamala. Okay, that's how bad she is. Little pets can't vote for her. Invisible people can't vote for her. No one's going to want to vote for Kamala.
It's not about age. Remember Bernie in 2016 and 2020, how he electrified young voters. The guy looked like your grandpa, right? Like, yet he electrified people. It's not about proximity to age. It's about how youthful your ideas are. And Bernie did put forth those youthful ideas. You know, he's sadly abandoned our movement, but it is what it is. I'm not letting that hold me back. But yeah, this Fettermen guy, he's not serious. They're trying to make him happen like they tried to make Beto O'Rourke happen. And that you just can't
never
do
work. It never works that way. Let's let him finish out. He's like a minute left of him talking. I think this is where he brings up the MAGA hat thing comment.
Yeah, right here at the this is great.
Yeah, let me ask you, Senator, one final question. As you go around Pennsylvania, as you hear from your constituents, what is the most important issue facing them? What do you hear the most from them as we move into this incredibly important election? What's the issue that you keep hearing about?
Again, I think the most important issue is like, what do we want for this state and what we want for this nation, and what we want kind of a world order is as well too. And it's going to be very competitive as well too. And the president is going to win here in Pennsylvania. And I've always believed that whoever wins Pennsylvania is going to be the next president as well too. And this is going to be, it's going to be difficult. And we all have to lean in on that. And we also have to start having, you know, all kinds of Democrats criticizing the president too publicly. I don't understand why. I don't know what's in it for you to do that, whether you're just chasing clout or you want to make it in the news or anything like that. But if you're not willing to just support the president now and say these kinds of things, you might as well just get your MAGA hat, because you now are helping Trump at this.
I mean, that sounds like a democracy to me. A sitting senator is saying any dissent is not welcome, and they just kind of continue on with the conversation. That is truly bizarre. If you are a nation who really believes that you are a democracy, I would think that kind of is a bizarre take there. But let's move now, gentlemen, to the next story, and it's related, to one of the things he brought up in that video, which was immigration. And let's go to this AOC tweet here. Where do I have it up? I'm looking for it here. Okay, I think I found it, gentlemen. So AOC, you know, it's not often that AOC comes out and, you know, speaks against the president in particular, the sitting president. I mean, Joe Biden. It's not often. That's one of the critiques that, you know, people have of her, is that, you know, you say one thing when Trump is in office, and then when Biden gets in office and says the same thing, you never have a critique of him. And this is what where we're going to start, because it starts here with immigration policy. So this is kind of two things we're talking at the same time, which is AOC's reaction, but also the Trump-like era sort of executive order that Biden wants to do. It's very Trumpian. So when we're talking about lesser of two evil from the standpoint of immigration, is there a lesser of two evil? And if we had to pick, I would say Joe Biden is worse. More funding to ICE, deportations are up, And now that he's talking about what you see on the screen, and this is CNN reporting, President Biden is considering executive action to restrict migrants seeking asylum at the U.S.-Mexico border, sources tell CNN. And that was the headline. And this is not, it's new that he's trying to do an executive order. What's not new is his rightward sort of push on immigration, since his polling is devastating when it comes to immigration. But it's largely because of the Southern strategy. It's largely putting fear into the larger sort of white population that have driven these numbers on immigration to where they are. But let's look at AOC's reaction to this. This is what AOC says here. And I'm going to read her tweet. And she says, doing Trump impressions isn't how we beat Trump. Let me put this down a little bit. Seeking asylum is a legal right. Seeking asylum is a legal right of all people. In the face of authoritarian threat, we should not buckle on our principles. We should commit to them. The mere suggestion is outrageous, and the president should refuse to sign it. Now, there's a couple of things I want to say just right off from her tweet. Why would he refuse to sign an executive order that he is initiating? This is not legislation that he's coming up that he can veto. So even in the critique of his is like an unbelievable thing that she's putting in, instead of saying, you know what I mean? She's not giving the right depiction. He should refuse to sign an executive order that he's initiating. Just doesn't make sense. But this part is correct where she says the mere suggestion is outrageous, but the mere suggestion is happening. AOC and Social Democrats. So when we're talking about Social Democrats aligning themselves with the Democratic Party, this is the result of long-standing sort of positions that no one would think as a left sort of party that you project that's the Democratic Party projecting as being for immigration. The people who have been teaming up with you on immigration did not sign up for this. Just like the Sunrise Movement didn't sign up for you giving out all of these, drilling permits. They didn't sign up for this, but this is what they're having their immigration sort of adjacent people like an AOC have to swallow. It's to swallow this rightward push on immigration. But go ahead, kid. He's not the only one.
Well, the thing is, AOC is going to have to swallow this, and it's a horrible choice of words. But she's the one who decided to endorse Joe Biden right off the bat as soon as he made his announcement that he was running for re-election. She's the one that said that Biden is exceeding expectations and that it's important for us to support Biden. And now what? She's shocked that Biden is doing a click copy paste of Donald Trump, one of Donald Trump's policies. He's been doing that throughout his entire presidency, both foreign and domestic. Nothing changed. Those kids in cages, Donald Trump found those kids in cages as soon as Obama and Biden were done with their 2 terms in the White House. So all this stuff of, acting like Trump isn't how we're going to defeat Trump. Trump isn't the problem, AOC. The problem is that the policies were being implemented by both Democratic and, yes, Republican lawmakers. And you're acting shocked that somehow there's this, that Biden and his administration are acting like this. You're putting on a show. You're unable to take any kind of personal responsibility. She is someone who has sheepdogged a lot of people into the Democratic Party by making all of us think that she's going to be the one to bring in change, even though when she's confronted with criticism, when she is challenged, she will quickly deflect and say that this is violence, that we're being misogynist, that we're being sexist, that we're not treating her with respect. AOC, you went all in for Biden. You said that he was exceeding expectations. This is your dog that you bet everything on. You're going to have to own it and live up with it. So you posting all this stuff is an insult to our intelligence. You posting this crap on social media, AOC, and you're supposed to get a reaction like, oh, yeah, do we need to be rougher on Biden? Do we need to be harder on Biden? Do we need to have a real conversation with Biden? He's not going to listen, and he's not going to freaking remember. This is an absolute joke. The fact that anyone ever once took AOC seriously is something that we're all going to have to live with. I mean, I was impressed when she won in 2018. If I had known even a fraction of how much of a hack fraud failure she would be, I would have said we got to break away from the Democratic Party way earlier on in 2018, because this is an insult. She's saying, like, oh, we got, like, how dare you, Biden, do this? This is what Trump would do. Biden and the Democrats have been doing this for decades, long before Trump ever even ascended to the presidency.
Go ahead. Go ahead,
yeah,
Anthony.
I just want to emphasize something that Kit just said. Because I, too, was very moved watching AOC's reaction the night she won the first time. And for Kit to say, had I known she would have been this much of a fraud, I would have left the Democratic Party much sooner.
Yeah.
This is how the Democrats keep leftists, worker-centered folks from establishing any sort of momentum outside the party. They keep giving us these little Trojan horses. And the thing is, you can only keep a lie up for so long. More and more people are talking about it. I heard a student on one of the campuses I work at say, you know what? When I voted in 2016, that was my first election, I voted for Hillary. Because, I'm pro-choice. I felt like I'm a Democrat. And I didn't look into her history. And I thought, hey, the first woman president. She goes, now I'm looking at it and saying, my God, I didn't know what she did in Libya. I was never told what she did in Guatemala. And what happens is they throw us these little bones, and it's not working anymore. So this is where they start to really spin their wheels and flail and turn the heat up, because when an abuser's tactics no longer work, that is the most dangerous time. Whether it's in an abusive relationship with an individual or with this party, you're seeing them flip out right now. They don't know what to do. None of their tactics are working. I mean, Biden is polling at 37% in some polls, 33%. Mm-hmm. And people ain't dumb.
Nope.
So I just think it's interesting. And, AOC, tears outside the fence for those poor kids in cages.
And she was nowhere near. That wasn't even a facility where people were being detained at when she did that. Like, no, that was all a show.
She's not even a good actor. But, here's the thing. I live in New York, so I'm not her directly constituent, but I have expertise in a few things related to trauma, sexual violence, as we've discussed, intimate partner violence, but also child abuse and neglect. I have approached her office multiple times saying, during the Biden administration, I am concerned that nobody independently is checking on the health of these kids, whether they're neglected or abused. We already know that many of them have been abused. That's already come out. Their office, I'll talk to an aide, and the aide will say, oh my God, this is really important. I'm going into a meeting with her. I'll let her know. And then we'll get back in touch with each other the next day. And this happened twice. And she said, yeah, that's not something they're really going to look at right now. So even the aide,
she don't care. She don't care about it.
She doesn't. And now the masks are off. Listen, there's a big Latino presence in her district. People are going to be pissed at this, and she knows it. So now she's looking for her own survival. She could easily be primaried, and she should be.
Yeah. No, not only that. She should be laughed out of her office in Congress. She's been nothing but a joke, nothing but a distraction. She's not a fighter. She missed her calling of actually being a actress, maybe a B-movie celebrity or something like that on the Sci-Fi Network, because I don't want to give her anything else on for any kind of big Hollywood deals, because she'll probably tank the project. All right. That's being a little mean. I take that back. I apologize for that one. But this is a person who's had numerous opportunities to lead a movement, to bring in change. And she doesn't strike because, as Anthony pointed out, as I pointed out before, she doesn't care. You think she cares about the kids in cages? You think she cares about women's rights or women's reproductive rights? She put on a whole fake show of her being arrested. Oh, put the handcuffs on me, and there were no handcuffs on her. She is not a serious person. AOC is not a serious politician. She should not be treated with any kind of seriousness whatsoever. Zero respect, because it's all nothing but show. It is nothing but a facade, smoke and mirrors for us to feel good. And looking back at 2018, it was one hell of a show, one hell of an intro, but now the story's getting stale.
I wonder if either of you have seen the video I'm going to show. It's a pretty new video from AOC when she was on Alex Wagner last night talking about this very part. So I'm going to get to that video because I'm just based on what both of you have said. I don't think you've seen this video. Okay. But let me just read a couple of more tweets here, just a reaction to what Biden is doing, because it wasn't just AOC that called him out. You had Pramila Jayapal also say, this would be an extremely disappointing mistake. Cruel enforcement only policies have been tried for 30 years and simply do not work. Democrats cannot continue to take pages out of Donald Trump and Stephen Miller's playbook. We need to lead with dignity. So at least both of them are making the comparison to Donald Trump, which is, I guess that is your harshest criticism in this day and age in this liberal space right now. Let's read a couple of more reactions. Of course, Nick had a reaction. He says, are you telling me that pushing Biden left didn't work? That was his response to AOC. But I love this one too. This is from, I don't know who this person is, but shout out to Stephanie here. She says the person doing a Nancy Pelosi impression. I thought that was classic because that is spot on what she's doing. And now let's get to the clip that I spoke of, and I hope, and I'm assuming both of you haven't seen this clip. I'm gonna bring it up on YouTube actually, and because what's crazy about all of this immigration talk is what AOC is advocating in this clip right here. She's advocating, because you would think, because they try to present this as, oh, Republicans want to force kids to work. They passed a law, which is terrible. But AOC says, no. We don't want the kids to be exploited. Let's instead exploit immigrants. That's her whole framing for this freaking segment.
Oh, I got
that we should be exploiting immigrants instead of exploiting kids. So let's listen to this.
Republicans all over the country, including last night in Kentucky, are voting to roll back child labor laws, calling it a thoughtful solution to get more workers back in the workforce. At the same time, they're blocking immigration reform that could give adult migrants the opportunity to fill those vacant jobs, many of them in dangerous industries. We're back with Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Democrat from the great New York. It's great to see you. Thank you for staying extra long on Friday night. I wonder what you think the sort of ethical, moral calculation here is to say, shut the borders down, as these Republicans fully and well know they need a workforce, probably of migrants, to work in these really degrading, dehumanizing, dangerous jobs in places like slaughter.
Listen to what she describes here.
Yeah, know what it is.
Listen to that. She is talking.
What
she's describing deplorable conditions, and the asylum seekers who cares that they're fleeing sort of retribution? They're fleeing war.
Mhm.
She's saying, why aren't we opening up asylums so we can exploit these workers and have these workers work these terrible jobs? And they're
Yep.
presenting this as a good thing. Go ahead.
It was,
Just
you know,
crazy.
here, you know, if we want to cut through the filter noise, because this is corporate media being polite, you know what she's saying? How can we treat these migrants like slaves and have them do the work that us
Yes.
higher echelon people? Get back to work, peasants. Get back to work, you servants. Get back to work, slaves, so that you could be touching the shite or being exposed to dangerous chemicals or asbestos or anything else that's out there. That is what is being presented, and liberals will eat it up and say, yeah, we should put these migrants here. It's not great work, but at least they'll be there doing the jobs that we don't want to do. Just like what was brought in The View a long time ago in 2016. Who was it? I think it was one of Osborne's kids who said, you know, you need the migrants to clean the toilets or something like that. Who was that?
I don't remember the person.
Yeah.
I vaguely remember the comment though.
Yeah. I vaguely remember
but it
that
is
too.
coming from that same sort of positioning. What's astonishing to me is that they're just openly talking about it this way. So I don't know. I'm gonna play just the last couple of seconds again, but like just when I'm listening to this with my eyes closed, I would think that this is a conversation on Fox News. Like what is happening to our socialists for this framing to be okay to talk about immigration in this way, to talk about immigrants in this way? Astonishing to me. Maybe
because they don't believe, because people like AOC who run on emotion do not believe the things that they say. They don't believe in it. I've run into my fair share of activists who are hypocrites, who don't believe in any aspect of social justice or anything that they protested for. They're all a lot of them are just frauds. Okay, you see more passion in people who are in the World Wrestling Entertainment than you see from these activists and politicians and careers.
Thank you for staying extra long on Friday night. I wonder what you think the sort of ethical, moral calculation here is to say, shut the borders down, as these Republicans fully and well know they need a workforce, probably of migrants, to work in these really degrading.
Why would she say probably of migrants unless you're saying you need workers? You would say probably of migrants because you need workers who have no rights. That is what she's admitting right here.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Dehumanizing dangerous jobs in places like
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And that means also treating those workers any which way, which means even if they die in the job, oh, well, at least they're here in America being free. They don't care. They don't care about the safety of these people.
And would rather have children that are already in the country work them.
I mean, there is no ethical or moral calculation here that I think Republicans are working with. Putting the first and foremost, the amount of protections that they heap on to these places that are so dangerous, themselves operating so unethically, and making them so dangerous for any human, adult or child, to be operating in. But the idea that Republicans, in order to win an election, say we need to hermetically seal the border when they know that that is economic self-sabotage to the U.S. economy. And they are saying.
So I've never heard an immigration advocate for an immigration policy in order for said immigrant to be exploited here.
This is
crazy. That is crazy. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
This sadly is what we mean when we say there is no left in the Democratic Party.
Thank you.
Because if you had a real leftist position being voiced by somebody in the Democratic Party, they'd be talking about a couple of things. And not just saying, oh, we can't treat asylum seekers this way. They'd be talking about what Ronald Reagan did.
Yeah.
Forgiveness, citizenship. You're here, you're an American citizen. Amnesty. I'm not hearing any of them talk about amnesty. I'm also not hearing any of them talking about, maybe we should take some of that nearly $1 trillion we're spending on war and help prop up the economies of Mexico and Guatemala and other places where immigrants are coming from, so that they don't need to come here because their countries are rich in resources. It's just capitalism and the uneven distribution of resources which is driving them away, in addition to the political repression and violence. They're not giving a leftist perspective. A leftist perspective would be about amnesty. What they do is, and this is how the Overton window shifts constantly, right. They will let the Republicans take up the we're Neanderthals, we're crazy, we hate all the brown people, let's seal the border. Knowing, first of all, the border's never going to be sealed. It just can't be. It's physically impossible. Mm-hmm. Let them take that space up so we sound reasonable, and all we're offering is status quo. That's the best you're going to get. And by the way, Biden is to the right of that. They're not saying anything about amnesty. They're not saying anything about how corporate capitalism is destroying the infrastructure of these countries and forcing people to leave and destabilizing them. That would be a leftist voice. So people like AOC, for the for those that don't pay attention much to politics, they would say, oh, she's a leftist. What leftist policies is she espousing besides let's keep everything the way they are? The way things are right now for immigrants is terrible. So even if you keep status quo, it's still racist. It's still repressive. And they don't leave space for that other conversation. It's never discussed.
Well, and it's also important to point out that when you see these politicians, at least when they get into office, maybe there was a point where I'm being generous with this. Maybe AOC did believe in some of the things that she fought for. But as soon as you find yourself intertwined and trapped in Washington, D.C., the quote from The Dark Knight resonates with me even more now. It's either you die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And even Nancy at one point, she fought for Medicare for all at one point. And then what happened? We get the same hagbag Nancy we see before us. And here is AOC, the click, copy, paste version of Nancy. The only difference is AOC is on the East Coast and she ran on this whole idea of being this progressive heavyweight champion. She had people carrying water for her, and now she is part of the machine. And so her saying like, we really don't know what else to do. If she was a true leftist, she would say that both parties are deplorable. Both parties are filled with scumbag politicians, and we need to have a true, real political movement in this country to restore our democracy. But she's not going to do it because she likes where she's at. She's comfortable. She wants to go to the next Met Gala event to be cat fancy.
Yeah. You know what, though, Kit? I think you're being unfair. She wore a tax the rich dress.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Ah, God damn it. You got me there.
And here's the thing.
That she didn't even pay for. Remember, it came out that she didn't pay for when the investigation came. And she had
shoot, I wish I had a nice suit and tie someone would pay for me to wear. I'd be like, oh, yeah, look at me.
Yeah, check into the person who designed that dress. She's an interesting woman who's got some interesting connections. So that's a whole other thing. But, at that Met Gala, there were protesters outside. And they were protesting, I believe, inequality in New York as well as police brutality. If I were the representative in Congress and I was invited to the Met Gala, I would show up in a tax the rich dress. I'm serious. But then I would go outside and be like, sorry, folks, I got to go be with my constituents outside. Like
that'd be crazy. That'd be crazy. She did that.
Crazy.
And by the way, I would look good in that dress. But that's how we had politicians like that. We had politicians like that in There was a guy I was reading about in the early 70s. He was assassinated, Allard Lowenstein. And, he was radical. These people, there were folks who did stuff like that. And now Joe Biden stands for 15 minutes on a picket line. Granted, it's the first time a president's done it, but we think that means he's pro-labor. Listen, there's nobody on the left in the Democratic Party. And here's the thing that they always do. They call us, when we fight for Medicare for all, when we talk about amnesty, they're like, oh, you're right wing. What? That's not MAGA. That's the opposite of MAGA. You're more adjacent to MAGA, you folks in the Democratic Party, than you think you are.
I've had a few Trump supporters reach out to me. Like, again, not like, just saying like, hey, we need to do something about migration. But they say like, how come the Democrats aren't fighting for, I had a few of them, just reach out and say, AOC and these Democrats, they're not fighting as hard as I thought they would on immigration rights or everything else, especially what's happening in sanctuary cities. It was more of not like, ha, ha, ha. It's more of, hey, why aren't they acting like the way they're supposed to act? Like, it's more of a question of, is this system really that corrupt? And it's interesting seeing that dialogue as people are witnessing AOC's hypocrisy right here out there in the open. That goes for everybody across the political spectrum. This is an act. I have to say, if AOC is anything, she's the perfect mimic. She knows how to mimic people's emotions and knows how to write it for as long as she can until she finds the next thing so she could shield herself from criticism.
Let's listen to some more, but to both of your points, if Donald Trump was in office making this same executive order, they will be out picketing right now and saying how racist this is.
Yeah, she'd be out there.
That's what but anyway, let's listen a little more. We're not going to watch all of this, maybe another 2 minutes of this, and then we'll get to another story before we get to our Colombia story here.
Seal the border when they know that is economic self-sabotage to the U.S. economy.
Amazing to see.
And they are saying, let's do it anyway. And to compensate for the negative effects, we're going to allow and throw people's kids into factories. That is what they are doing in rolling back child labor laws while being as xenophobic and anti-immigrant as they are. And while ginning up this false narrative about this being a crisis. And by the way, by then also preventing and blocking any legislation that would provide not just a path to citizenship, but a path to work papers, a path to allowing people who want to work to be paired with American businesses who need people to work. And there is not only no moral calculation, there is no economic calculation, there is no logical calculation, there is only a political calculation. And that political calculation is we are going to keep whining about it. Mm-hmm. We are going to keep pretending this is a crisis while contributing to actual problems. And then we're going to block the solution so that we can campaign on it over and over.
Isn't that the exact thing that they did with abortion? Aren't they exactly doing that with abortion right now? They sat back and watched the Republicans say, we're going to slowly take away this right over a span of 30 years. And they did nothing about it. And what's chilling now, and we're talking still about abortion, what's chilling now to me is how they're pretending they're going to do something on abortion. How it is so sad that people are actually falling, not a lot, I must say that it's not working on, the vast majority of people, but it is working on some people. But it is just astounding to me how some people are still falling for the Democrats are going to save your abortion rights after they watch that shit literally fall away. But go ahead, Kit.
What I want to add in here, maybe this is me projecting and assuming, but I'm willing to bet in some of those closed rooms with the Democrats, including people like AOC, they probably think, there's enough suckers out there that'll vote for us if we talk enough about women's rights. women's reproductive rights. I'm willing to bet that they say, there's enough triggered people who are not mentally coherent enough. I'm pretty sure that they have some choice words to say about us as voters, as citizens. If you don't think AOC isn't above that, no, she is. I'm willing to bet that, because again, the Democrats had that super majority under Obama's administration. Its first 2 years, they could have codified it, but what did Obama say? It wasn't politically expedient at the time, which is why we're at where we're at now.
He literally said, "It's not my top priority right now. I want to amp down the rhetoric." At the time, NARAL, National Abortion Rights Action League, and Planned Parenthood were not happy, and they did speak out. But of course, they dutifully supported him again in 2012, and that's how it's been going for years. They're not incompetent. They're a right-wing party. They elected and now want to re-elect a man, Joe Biden, a misogynistic pig, Joe Biden. They re-elected him and elected him, who spent his entire political career supporting the Hyde Amendment, which made it impossible and illegal for poor women to get abortions. And by the way, their rhetoric on abortion is so white, middle-class, liberal feminist. It is disgusting. I am not pro-choice. I am pro-reproductive justice. And if anybody wants to read about reproductive justice, Loretta Ross, who I've been trained by, is brilliant on this. You cannot have just access to abortion. You need reproductive justice. It's the full spectrum of what reproductive rights are for women, all women, not just comfortable brunch-going, middle-class, establishment white women. And the Democrats are not at all on their side. I'll tell you, if Trump gets elected and proposes, he's not as batshit crazy on abortion as like a DeSantis is. He's not good on it. He's horrendous. Trump is. But Trump would support like a 15-week ban, which is what they have in Europe. You can only have an abortion in the first 15 weeks, which is extremely problematic for a whole bunch of reasons. And I can see a whole bunch of Democrats going along with that. And that's the thing. They're not a left party. They are a center-right party.
Mm-hmm. Also,
on all these issues.
Also, look, I'm just going to say this again, too, because I covered the Women's March here in Chicago, all those pink pussy hat people way back in 2017. I've covered my fair share of protests. I stopped covering it, especially because they all went in front of Trump Tower. All those people are hypocrites. All these people who are saying we got to support the Democrats because they'll help out, protect the woman's right to choose. The Democrats will be pro-choice and all that other stuff. All those speakers, all those leading activists, they don't believe in those words. They don't believe in the actions. What they believe in is keeping enough suckers in the system so they use the fear of Trump so that everyone can empty out their wallets for the Democratic Party. Because what happened when Roe v. Wade was finally canceled? I got an email from Mayor Lori Lightfoot when she was still in Chicago, an email from Governor J.B. Pritzker, an email from a whole other Democratic politician saying, give me $15, give us $15 so we can protect the woman's right to choose. The homeless people in front of the gas station where I get my gas at have a more decent argument for me giving me their money than the Democrats ever will. Okay? That's how crazy it is. That's how stupid these Democrats are. They're asking for money. There are panhandlers with more integrity in my city who are asking for real. Hey, I need to go across the city. I need to go to the hospital. I need money to do this. Democrats are asking for money for do nothing. All these activists don't believe in a single thing that they say, especially the ones that were protesting from 2016 through 2020. Nothing but frauds. Where are you at now?
And that is Hard Lens giving that hard critique. And just a couple of super chats, and we're going to get right into our next story. I wanted to do this story before your Columbia story, Anthony, because it bleeds into the topic. So I think it's a good sort of bleeding into story for yours. So, but let me get back to super chats. Now, this is the new one from Janice. but it refers to her previous one that we've already read. So I do have to bring up the old one. So this was the original one. Krystal is going to do the same thing as she did in 2020, criticize Democrats using our lingo, then justify voting. I thought this was a typo that said Biden closer, but it's Biden. And then she explains here in this one, no, I meant Biden. Is that, am I saying it right?
Bidet.
Bidet. Oh, bidet.
Pronounce bidet. Okay, there she goes. She says it right there. The part of some toilets that wash it off your ass. That's about it. All he's qualified for. Okay, so it was correct. It was not a typo.
Bidet.
Thank you, Janice.
Bidet. There you go. Bidet. See, we learned something new today.
Ah, love it.
The bidet. We learned something new today. There you go.
From RJ 1997. Thank you for the super chat. It's cute that AOC thinks G-side, and I think that's Genocide Joe, is a liberal. That's cute. And another one from RJ, is it ARJ? I should say ARJ 1997. No one should associate only Democrats as progressives. Point taken. And then another one. Wow, this is 3 back to back from ARJ 1997. I was saying the name wrong earlier. Thank you for this one. Also, Dems, child labor exploitation should not be allowed. Immigrant labor exploitation, on the other hand, we can be hypocrites just like everyone else. And that was the point that I was making about that. It just didn't look like a good look. The point of view of pro-immigration that AOC was arguing there was very awkward, very weird. But let's get to this video. This is sort of a viral video because there's a section in this video that is about a what do they call those panels that they do? Anyway, when they get to it, they have the name. They have this sort of panel they have of Michigan voters that they talk to, and they put it on camera. Yeah, focus group. That's the right. Yeah, focus group. I'm sorry. Thank you for that. Yeah, focus group, and it doesn't turn out well. What goes viral is all the little focus group comments, but this is the segment that the focus group is from, and let's analyze it. It's pretty bad for Biden in Michigan, and a Democrat cannot win the presidency without Michigan, and it's looking very bad for him. Now, let's clarify a couple of things. There's 2 things going on, 2 campaigns: abandon Biden, and then there's the uncommitted. It's, in my opinion, the uncommitted campaign is the campaign that's trying to pretend to be something like the abandoned Biden, but they're just the campaign that wants everybody who's against genocide to vote for Joe Biden. That's what the uncommitted campaign is. I'll show you the headline in a second, but let's analyze this video right here.
There are aspects we have to talk about with Yasmin, who's joining us from Michigan, Dearborn specifically, talking to voters ahead of Tuesday's primary. That is a state, as you well know, Yasmin, where protesters have been very loud against Joe Biden's support for Israel. And as the New York Times has put it, Michigan's combination of an early primary, a large and politically active Arab American population, progressive students on college campuses, and the option of a protest vote have raised the stakes of what has otherwise been a sleepy election in the state. Sleepy. So what are the voters telling you, Yaz?
There's a new poll out, Alex, 45-41, in which the former president is leading Joe Biden right now in Michigan. Biden has a problem, Alex, in Michigan with the voters that I've been speaking to. These are all folks that voted for Biden in 2020. They have committed to voting uncommitted in the Michigan primary next Tuesday. And 2 of them are very much on the fence in voting for him for re-election in November. The other 2 absolutely will not be voting for him. They're angry about Gaza. They're angry he has not called for a permanent ceasefire as of yet. And they're angry that he has not come through on the promises he made when he was running for president back in 2020. Let's take a
And what's interesting, she's about to bring on the focus group. What's interesting is that because she says, now there's 4 people, I think she said, half 2 are on the fence and 2 are absolutely not. What was crazy to me is that the one was absolutely not was like an older person. You would think, because you're gonna see a couple of young, both the old people and both young people. It's not really down age. And if you in Michigan are losing the 55, 60 plus vote in the Arab community, you're done. That's a done deal, sir. That's a done deal, because you can write off young Arabs. You can write them off as just part of the young generation, not even part of the Arab discontentment. You can't write that off for a 55 plus Arab. You can't write that off as just a younger progressive. You get what I'm saying? And that's, to me, speaks volumes. But let's listen to the focus group, and you guys let me know any part you want to stop the video.
Take a listen, Alex, to some of what they said and how they think or they believe Biden could possibly make up their vote between now and November. Is there a pathway forward for you with Biden?
Oh, absolutely not. You cannot keep killing people with our money and just keep thinking that, we are stupid enough to elect you again, because we'll fall in line. We'll forget. This is an insult to me as a voter.
For you.
You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's the person I was talking about. That lady, she looks like in her early 50s, maybe mid 50s. Hopefully, I'm projecting right. She looks good for age, by the way. I'm not saying that as an insult or anything. Yeah, she looks like about that. Yeah, she looks around that age. But I'm saying, if you're losing that voter, because that's not the average, that's not the progressive. You know what I mean? She doesn't have defund the police on her lawn. You get what I'm saying? She's probably that voter in that age group who had made the decision, hey, the Democrats, they financially support Israel just like every other president, but at least they project that they, want human rights for Palestinians. So I made the calculation that I'll at least go with the lesser 2 evil. But when you lose that constituency, to me, this is I don't see how he's going to get that voter back. And I'm going to rewind and let it play. Go ahead, Kate. You're going to chime in, sir.
Well, yeah. Here's the thing. He's losing the voters, and I said this would happen. People are going to wake up. People are going to start waking up and being self-aware of just how little they're respected by both parties. And Democratic voters are seeing this firsthand, especially Arab voters, Muslim voters, Black voters, who for a long time have, I think in many ways, been browbeaten and bullied into voting Democrat, because the white liberals would say, see, we care about you people more. We care about your social issues more. We care about how you feel. And the thing is, they don't. They just want to maintain their power. A lot of these white latte drinking liberals who are part of this neoliberal establishment in the Democratic Party want to keep people subservient. And what we're seeing is individuals push back as they should, and I'm loving every minute of it, because the Democratic Party's hypocrisy is out here in full display. And what better avatar for the Democratic Party than Joe Biden, who's been on the wrong side of history, who's been always incorrect about every single social issue, who's one of the many architects of this neoliberal nightmare that we are in. So for these voters to say, I'm not voting for Biden, is a correct choice. It is a rational choice, because this man and his party have never once stuck their necks out for the people. They only want the people to be subservient to them.
Can I say one quick thing before you change the frame?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What in God's name is going on with the thumbnail on his right hand? Is that his hand?
Ew. Ew.
What is happening there?
Oh.
Because I'm a big horror movie fan. I've seen Nosferatu, and that is some vampire shit going on right there.
Jeez.
I don't know.
Or maybe it's like body horror from Dusk Till Dawn. Like inside him is like that vampire rat creature that'll come bursting out.
I just noticed it. I'm like, dude, groom yourself. What the hell? Anyway.
Maybe he wants it that way.
Or no, wait.
That's his coattail.
Silver Surfer, yeah. No, it's the booger sugar. It's the booger sugar nail. You gotta be careful what you say on YouTube. It's the booger sugar nail.
That's right.
All right, let's get back to the video. But let's go.
Make up their vote between now and November. Is there a pathway forward for you with Biden?
Oh, absolutely not. You cannot keep killing people with our money and just keep thinking that, oh, we are stupid enough to elect you again, because we'll fall in line. We'll forget. This is an insult to me as a voter.
For you, Biden has a pathway forward.
Biden has a pathway forward. It's not.
And what does that look like?
That is him calling for a permanent and immediate ceasefire. The straightforward, simple answer for the Biden administration is push for a ceasefire, stop aiding Israel in their war crimes, and I guarantee you there are enough people who would be willing to deal with it and vote for the man. It is, in so many words, insane to me to have the Democratic Party and the Biden administration sit here and essentially say, if Trump happens, it's your fault.
If you don't want a Trump presidency, then are you not worried about what he could do domestically to this country?
I am, it's like a vaccine. I'm willing to take short-term pain for a long-term gain. I'm willing to let go of Joe Biden and oppose Joe Biden, make him a one-term president, punish Joe Biden by making him a one-term president and pairing his loss with the genocide in Gaza.
Why is having a Trump presidency more important than those people's lives?
This is the part that I was shocked that they put on TV. How
the hell they let that happen?
When she said that, I was like, what? They didn't edit that out of there? I was absolutely floored. I'm going to rewind it again for those that didn't catch it. This is the point that we all have been making. That's why it was so shocking. Listen to this.
It's refreshing. I love it.
Punish Joe Biden by making him a one-term president and pairing his loss with the genocide in Gaza.
Why is having a Trump presidency more important than those people's lives? Why is our democracy more important than thousands of men, women, and children being killed?
Devastating.
So it's interesting, Alex, because it's not like they're saying we're not going to vote for Joe Biden.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Just kind of look at her face. The reporter or pundit, her face is like, he's like, I can't believe I sat through it. None of those people are vote blue, no matter who. I'm still recovering. They don't care about Trump. They're all scared. It's funny to see just the reaction from her face at ease of that. I'm wondering what else did they leave on the cutting room floor? Because if that was the most, if those are the highlights, what else was left now? I would have liked
other stuff.
Yes, exactly. And maybe that was the most tame out of everything that they said.
That is funny. That is true. All right, let's listen to some more.
And instead we're going to be voting for Donald Trump. That is not at all what they're saying, right? Instead of saying we are in this position in more of a big picture sense because of the Democratic Party, right? They're like, you haven't given us the candidates that we want. You haven't delivered the way in which we want. You're not listening to us. And we are sick of the political system in this country because of all of that. So this for them is kind of a warning shot, saying it's time to change. It's time for something to change in this country.
Yeah, the third gentleman with whom you spoke talked about the short-term pain for the long-term gain and said that he'd be willing to vote out Joe Biden. He does fully realize what that means, right? If we've got Joe Biden and Donald Trump, he's willing to elect Donald Trump.
Wow, that's projecting
he fully
right there.
realizes, and I challenge.
Holy cow. So in other words, she's saying, like, does that guy know that he's voting for Trump? No, he didn't say anything like that, lady.
Yeah.
You are projecting an emotional response due to somebody who is tired of the Democratic Party's BS. Okay? If Joe Biden loses Michigan, it's on Joe Biden and the Democratic Party, not on any one voter or voters. It's because the Democrats failed to deliver with policies and solutions to make people's lives better. And shame on BSDNC for actually having the audacity for somebody on their team to be that emotionally charged. Does he realize that he knows what he's doing? Yeah, just like how I know what I'm going to be doing on election night. I'm voting third party and independent, and I encourage my my audience, if they're going to vote, to do whatever they feel like. And if that's going to be projected as, do you know what you're doing? You're telling people to vote for Trump? Go ahead, project more. Let us live rent-free in your head, corporate media.
I love it. You're amazing.
Beautiful. All right, let's listen some more. A lot of this is very shocking that it's on TV, but this choice they try to say, well, Trump Muslim ban, is that really Muslim ban? There's 30,000 dead people, but you want to say Muslim ban. It's astonishing that they believe that that's a good talking point.
I also want to add in something here too. You know, she's saying like, does he realize what he knows what he's doing? Yeah, I'm gonna twist this famous quote from Samuel L. Jackson. Yes, I know what I'm doing, and I hope you burn in hell.
Challenged him on that. I talked to him about that. He fully realizes what that means. But these voters are saying it's not on us. This is not our responsibility. It is not our fault. This is the fault of the two-party system in this country. It's the fault of the Democratic Party for not producing the candidates that we want and for not coming through and following through on the issues that we feel like they need to be following through on. So if we have to go through, as Khalid said, the person that you were talking about, this kind of short-term pain of another Trump presidency, that's what needs to happen as they see it to break the system. Because they have slept through so many election cycles in which they see as choosing the lesser of two evils, and they're exhausted. And that is what I'm hearing most from voters here in Michigan.
Now, I must say, I always forget how to pronounce her name, but she is Muslim and or Arab, the lady you see on the screen. And she's gotten a lot of criticism because on her show, she really doesn't go hard in the way that you would think. Amen, too. The guy named Amen, he has some of the same critiques. That's why you see these two Arabs still on TV and you see Mehdi Hassan gone from the same network. But when she's on other people's shows and doing reporting, I do notice those segments are a lot more harder, like this one right here. So maybe she's making the play, I want to save my job, so on my show, I'm not doing that. But if I'm actually here as a reporter, I have more leeway. I can go and have the people I'm reporting on say the thing that I would really like to have said. And maybe that's why this segment is the way it is, because she selected what's in there. The reporters would select the clips that's in the reporting. So she picked this, knowing full well. So I'm just saying maybe this is her, Malcolm X adjacent moment, her protest moment is to produce a segment like this. I could be giving her a lot more credit than she deserves, but that's the way I've been looking at it.
I think
go ahead. Go ahead.
I just say I think she did a nice description right there of what Khalid was saying, and I think and the other folks. And this is what I'm talking about when I say there are cracks in the system. And good point that you made. Like, we don't know what ended up on the cutting room floor, but the fact that this made it through, there are cracks in the system. And I think I want to hear somebody articulate this. That whole short-term pain for long-term gain. The long-term gain is this. By denying Joe Biden a vote. And by the way, at this point, it's 4 months in. No matter what he does tomorrow, he's still responsible for those 13,000 kids having their limbs blown off and bodies buried in rubble. Some of them are still buried. And they died alone and cold with their dead parent next to them. There is no coming back and forgiving. I would love Joe Biden to push for a permanent and immediate ceasefire and an end in military aid to Israel tomorrow. He still doesn't get my vote, but maybe he doesn't end up in hell. So
no, that's too late. No, he's going there. He's going there. No,
I know.
There's no negotiation with that. Come on. Come on.
But the thing is this: we must punish genocide. We must punish it no matter who does it. Because if we don't, we have given them a green light to do this again, and believe me, they will. So this is a very historic moment for us to draw this line. And that's why I like that we are able to be so non-nuanced in this. There is no nuance when it comes to the genocide, especially of a powerless people who've been oppressed for so long. None. No vote for Biden. No vote for genocide. The United States should not and never will again be involved in this type of slaughter. We say no. And the only way we can do it is at the ballot box in November by voting no on Joe Biden. And that includes voting for a third party, independent, or leaving the top line blank. And additionally, getting in the streets and keeping our voices loud and disrupting business as usual. Those two things, those are our tools, and we're using them.
Absolutely. Back to the video.
So last question to you. You just said, wow. And you said so as Ray Gasman was reporting there listening to that tape. What does this portend to you? How concerning is this? Michigan's in a very important state. It potentially could run neck and neck there. You have Rashida Tlaib, the Michigan congresswoman, who's saying what Yasmin is talking about with these voters, saying, hey, don't vote for Biden specifically. Send this message. But sending that message now.
Sure.
What are the dangers of that?
Well, so first of all, the Biden campaign and the administration certainly acknowledges the political significance of this situation. That's why they sent Deputy National Security Advisor John Feiner to do extended meetings in Michigan with these communities.
Oh, yeah.
We shouldn't forget about the fact that this is February.
Yeah.
And so if this
There's
was
time,
there's time for the campaign and the administration to address this. And what I would virtually guarantee is every Biden supporter or former Biden supporter who is a part of this coalition is sending this message in such an ardent way right now because they are hoping to reach some form of consensus. And you're going to see that start to play out. So there's a lot that is going to change, but certainly what can happen, and this is just raw politics. This isn't a commentary on the conflict itself. The Biden campaign will not ignore this issue and their voices, and you will certainly see them making very, very concerted efforts to mend some of these divisions and bring their coalition back together.
Can we go back quickly to you, Yasmin, if you're still there, and just get you to react to what the Congressman just said?
Yeah.
Yep.
Congressman, I don't mean.
So the congressman is the representative for the Biden administration. He's not technically a surrogate, but he obviously is a corporate Democrat. He's not a progressive. He's a corporate Democrat who's here to shield for Biden and get people to vote despite Genocide Joe's record. That's what he's here to do. And you heard him say, it's only September. I mean, we still 9 months or whatever the amount. Yeah, we're in February. Yeah, we got 9 months.
No, you don't have time.
See in the video? Didn't we just see in the focus group her specifically address that and say that that's insulting? That's the reason why I think that the host here goes back to say, what's your reaction to what this, pseudo Biden surrogate has to say about that? Because it's important. They're not learning because he's having the same reaction that they're having, and people are trying. Like, I feel like the host and the reporter are trying to convince you, hey, this is not regular shit here. They're not just going to forget this. This
yeah. Well, by the way,
to understand that
they don't have time. Like, time is out just because it is February. Once we got into 2024, once December 31st of 2023 ended and we walked into January 1st of 2024, time's up. Now you got everything on the table. Everything is set. If the Democrats wanted to change something, they should have done it in 2023 when they still had time. They have no freaking time. They are out of time. Now it's the game is set. The game is being played. This goes for Republicans, independents, and Democrats. If they wanted to make a change, they should have done it a year ago. It is too late for any kind of reset or any other kind of big gameplay, which is why probably the biggest thing that's going to happen is a DNC convention here in Chicago where they're going to play a last-ditch effort to probably replace Biden. And I see that happening because the evidence is abundantly clear. People are not enthusiastic for Biden or anyone within his administration. They want something else, and that's going to be their last Hail Mary. That's if the Democrats are mind you, again, I'm trying to project. I'm assuming that there's some smart people in the Democratic Party, which they're not.
Well, there are some smart enough to want to win, and that's important to them because it enables their continued grift. But do you agree, Kit, that no matter who they put up, it's not going to work? It's
not going to work because then it's sort of like changing a character mid-season. Like, who's this person? This wasn't the protagonist. Like there's a big shift in the story. Voters are going to get confused. And the average American voter right now, because like none of them are as in tuned as we are, because we eat and breathe and consume politics where we're talking about it all the time. But a lot of voters will be like, well, then who do I vote for? Who's this guy? Wait, it's not Biden anymore. There's going to be a big wave of confusion. And they're going to try and project it as this big thing. Again, that's if the Democrats are smart and they do want to win, they got to have another horse than Biden because Biden isn't their guy. So, yeah.
The people who are most concerned about this genocide are going to be very astute in listening to whoever, if they replace Biden with, what they say about Israel. Now, I think what they're hoping is, so Biden's been pushing for this quote unquote humanitarian ceasefire. It's not a permanent and immediate ceasefire. In fact, what he's pushing is another temporary pause in the slaughter and the genocide to get aid in. And I think they're rolling the dice and hoping Netanyahu will forego a full-out attack.
He won't do that. Netanyahu's going all in. Are you kidding me? I covered an article on RT on how he's saying he wants the war to go all the way up until 2025. This man is dead set for the full destruction of the Palestinian people living in Gaza.
He's also dead set. I agree. Netanyahu is dead set on extending this war as long as he can because he knows once it's over, his political life is done.
Yes.
He's got a 98% or 95% disapproval rating in Israel. They blame him for the security failure, as well they should.
Yeah.
Because he knew about this and did nothing. He had all his troops, not all, the majority of the IDF, their energies were focused on protecting illegal settlements in the West Bank, not protecting their border with Gaza. The Israelis are not stupid, and you can find this in Haaretz and the Jerusalem Post. People are not having it, and there's enough folks there very unhappy with the fact that he clearly does not care about the lives of those hostages. So he's done. His only hope is to extend and this is the dangerous part, expand this war. My God, Hezbollah and Iran have shown such restraint, and there's going to be a boiling point if Israel continues to do what they're doing, where that restraint will break, and then you got a full-blown regional war, and I think the Dems are just hoping, gosh, if we can get through this, make it look like Biden had something to do with hostilities lessening. We'll be okay. Listen, you know what? People who lost 30, 40 family members in Palestine, and these are the voters in Michigan, they've talked about it in other focus groups. They've lost family members. Guess what? Those people aren't coming back from the dead, and they're not going to forgive Biden or whoever replaces him for the deaths of their cousins, their sisters. It's just, I don't think that not just the Democrats, but the media are giving enough space to the pain of Americans here who have lost their family members and what it is like for them.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, as time progresses forward, a lot of voters are going to see just how weak the Democrats are in regards to making big decisions, especially as we creep closer and closer to the convention here in Chicago. And there was an article that was shared with me. I know it's a little bit off topic because we need to focus on the rest of the show, but on how there is intense security around the United Center for when the DNC convention comes here, and just how upset voters are here in the city. Plus, there's a lot of people, Chicagoans, who are upset with the Democratic machine and the local government here, and in regards to the continuous failures and policies by Democratic leadership. This is a powder keg that's ready to blow up. And the Democrats are fully responsible for this because they're the ones responsible for lying and misleading the people with their intentions.
Yeah. And let's play some more of the video. It's not that much left, maybe 90 seconds. Let's listen.
I mean, I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but it's interesting because some of the points that you just made up, they actually came up at the table, right? This idea of timing, and the president has said this, there's time, right, to make up the difference between now and November. And they have sent an entourage of people. They've sent folks from the White House to respond to some of these concerns in Michigan. The president came himself when it came to UAW. He has not yet come to address the issue right now at hand with the Arab American, the Muslim American community and young voters here in Michigan. One, that is something that they want. The other thing is they're saying the time is now. It's not now or November. The time is now because what they're asking for, specifically in the Arab American community, the Muslim American community, and these young voters, is they're wanting real action when it comes to Gaza. So this time making up, right, and sending these entourage of folks that are part of the White House, it's not necessarily, in my view, from what I'm hearing from these folks, making much of a difference.
Right. Wow. So yes, I know we're supposed to go, but just really quickly, let's say things get much better. Are they not going to be able to forget what has happened in Gaza when it comes to voting in November and thus vote their conscience that way?
So the two guys in the end, Annie and Mikhail, both young voters, they said there is a possibility to make up that vote, right? If the president were to call for an immediate ceasefire, for instance, and really put time and thought, energy and money into creating a two-state solution in that area and helping rebuild. That's how they feel now. The two in the middle said there's no redemption. They're not doing it.
Okay. The two in the middle were the two older people. Now, some people in the audience said that maybe we overaged the lady. Maybe she was in her 40s, maybe. But even if she was in her 40s, the guy was definitely in his late 50s or 60s. And both of them, meaning anyone over 40, is the point that I'm making. Both of them were over 40. The two over 40 were held no in stone. The two young people were the ones that were flexible, but really, are they flexible? Because what they're asking for is non-starter. They're saying a permanent ceasefire, and one of them said you have to stop facilitating money. Those are non-starters. So really, to me, those are four people, two who give a threshold that the Biden administration is not willing to go to. So that's effectively, to me, the same thing. But final reactions on this, and then we're going directly into the Columbia story because it's about students also, and not also because about another constituency that's so against what's happening in occupied Palestine. You have people of color, you have people under 40, and progressives, and then you also have the Arab community. But then you have these people on college campuses, and there's a story that's happening on the campus of Columbia that we all need to kind of visit and talk about in the context of what's happening. But before we do that, what are your final words, Anthony and Kit, on this story? What's happening in Michigan? This is dire for the Democrats in Michigan. So go ahead, Kit, and then we'll follow up with Anthony.
Yeah, so the dam is about to break because I think we're going to see more people start speaking out against why they're not, about why they won't vote for Biden, and it's going to come from all sorts of Democrats, all sorts of generations about the failure of the Biden administration, and it's going to be pure gold for people like us because I think we were witnessing the beginning, not that it's happening now, but the beginning stage of a true political awakening in this country that has long since been suppressed and been told to behave. People are going to start speaking out, and this is where it's up to independent media to be the leaders for the next real big step. So this is the Great Awakening, not happening yet, but it's the beginning stages of it, and we must continue to encourage people and invite those that have been frightened for so long that it's okay to be awakened, it's okay to call out these politicians, and that it's okay to voice your criticism and to use your power to make your own impact.
Go ahead, Anthony, if you had any final words on this last story.
Everything Kit just said, and I, with the same passion, because I do think the cracks are there. There's no patching them up. And whether it's our support for genocide, illegal occupation and apartheid, which pre-existed the genocide, whether it's our support for racist immigration policy, our abandonment of working people by refusing to push for universal Medicare for all in the middle of a deadly pandemic. The Democrats didn't do that. They didn't raise the wage. They did nothing about inflation once it happened. We didn't get relief checks. So when you look at it, the masks are off and folks are not having it. And I do agree that enough key groups that are normally considered the base of the Democrats are not going to vote for Biden and or whoever is his replacement. And Jim Clyburn is freaking out, and he doesn't get it either, because there's a lot of young black voters that are saying no. In fact, there was a survey within the past couple of months which said 1 in 5 black voters of all ages have said they will vote third party. Biden has dropped double digits, more than 20 points, with black voters in approval rating just in the past year alone. You cannot win as a Democrat without those votes either. And it's happening in so many different areas. And I think it's a good thing. People are voicing how they feel. It's a good thing. Here we are. Let's see where it goes.
Yeah, and like I said, the next story is our Columbia story. I'm going to have you preface it in just a second, but let me read a couple of super chats, new super chats we got in. Thank you for the super sticker from a Biden 71, always showing love to in all of the left media spaces. Always see him in the comments, showing love to everyone. This one here, another one from ARJ 1997, Dims. A non-vote for Genocide Joe is a vote for Trump. Seems illogical, but we are endorsing our president backing of the settler colonial project. Thank you for that, ARJ. And next one, Anthony, uncommitted is less than abandoned Biden is less than dim exit. I love that one right there. Dim exit is the ultimate. I love that one right there.
There you go.
And
Perfect.
then this is a big one from Landry. All is known for always sending these larger super chats. Thank you for the $100 super chat from Landrew. I said Landry. That's my uncle Landry and cousin Landry. But Landrew, thank you for the super chat. It says, RBN always educating. Vote no on Genocide Joe. There is no lesser genocide. Did I say it the wrong way? It's Landrew. Landrew. Right?
No. I said true. I said like RBN
true. Oh, I thought you
true. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Landrew. Show some love to Landrew in the comments. Always showing those with those large super chats. Thank you for this one. We also appreciate all amounts of our super chats. Cool Blue 71 says Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin are top bellwether states. Longest streaks voting for president presidential winners since 2008 and will again in 2024. Trump will flip them. I think he's saying Michigan, Pennsylvania. Of course, if Trump flips all three of those, it's a done deal. But I think even if he just flips Michigan and wins the other ones that he held, it's a done deal for Joe Biden. And those are all of our super chats for now. I think a new one came in. I'll continue that one after this story. Actually, let me read this last one, and then I'm gonna pass it to you, Anthony, just to kind of set up the story and what's happening on the campus of Columbia. So this last one from Roger Meadows. Kit just tuned in, down with all political parties. What's up, Roger Meadows?
Well,
thank you for the super chat, sir.
Agreed.
Awesome. All right. Are you there, Professor? You there, Anthony? Your camera off? I just want to make sure. Actually, he's not there. He must be taking a break. But
perfect time for a break. So, folks, if you're watching Revolutionary Blackout Network right now, please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and hit that ring bell notification. That way, you're made aware when they upload new content upon their YouTube channel, and so much more, so you can continue to get educated and be empowered. Perfect commercial break. Did it.
Thank you for that. And I also want to bring up this for my last announcement before we start the story. I mean, I can start the story, but I do see that you're back, sir. I'm going to just have you preface the story because you are actually a professor on the campus where this is taking place. Shout out to our website. Make sure you check the website out, revolutionaryblackoutnetwork.com. You can go here to get that NATO sweater. One of our more popular RBN merchandise items is the NATO hoodie. Make sure you check it out. I'll scroll the website down at the bottom, and then also the hoodie. All right, so let's get into this next story. So we have this story, and then I know it's a long stream, so if you guys want to take off after this story, that's completely fine. I do have just a couple of tweets to go over. One with Briahna Joy Gray after this, where she gets into it with Elie from The View. But I know it's a long stream, so if you guys want to take off after this story,
I'll probably have to take off after this one. Yes.
Yeah, you can. No problem, because we're hitting the 3-hour mark right here. But this is not a long story. But if you could bring us up to date on, and I also have the tweet from the guy you sent ready to show. But if you can bring us up to date and give us the lowdown, sort of a short synopsis of what's happening and what has happened on the campus of Columbia University.
Yeah,
Anthony,
and there's a lot, so I'll try my best to make it concise. But very soon after Israel began its genocidal onslaught of Palestine, students all over the world and in the United States started standing up and speaking out against it. Columbia University in New York City was no exception. Students, especially in the School of Social Work where I teach, many of them have stood up. They had a teach-in, they had a sit-in, a class walkout, a couple of those, and then students from the entire main campus as well. So that in and itself, student activism is not unusual, but the response of the school has been troubling and problematic. And one of the things that has happened, and it's multi-pronged, it's like there's a lot of moving parts here, were students who were involved in a sit-in. So they wanted to have a teach-in to talk about what's going on in Gaza. And this was the end of last semester. They were given a room to have the teach-in in. Then they were told last minute, you're not allowed to have the teach-in. You don't have access to the room. So the students did it in the lobby of the social work building, at which point they were threatened by administration for doing that. They're like, this isn't sanctioned. You're not allowed to do it. And their response was, you gave us a room to do it in. We were happy to do it in the room. Now you've taken it away. We're not going anywhere, right? So this has been happening. And then the campus-wide protests, which happen in the main area of the Columbia campus. Some folks have probably seen footage of this. The administration of the School of Columbia itself has allowed NYPD to come onto campus when these pro-Palestine anti-genocide protests have taken place. And there was an incident January 19th where multiple students protesting against genocide were sprayed with something that they believe was skunk spray, which is a military grade chemical weapon developed by the Israeli military and used to put down protests and for crowd control in Gaza and the West Bank. These students, many of them had to seek medical treatment. Some have been sick for weeks. They had to throw clothing away because skunk does not, it's a chemical spray. It's not organic skunk, right? It does not get out of clothing or hair. Some were hospitalized. The two students that have been alleged to have committed this crime, which I would say is a terrorist attack, have been identified allegedly as two former IDF soldiers who are now students at Columbia. Yeah.
What the hell?
This has been covered in The Intercept. They probably did the best job on this. The author of that was Prem Thacker, who's definitely worth a follow. His deep dive into this really showed what was going on. And the school initially, their reaction seemed to be to blame the protesters for an unauthorized protest. I'm sorry, genocide is not a very, it's not something that's predictable. When it happens, there's not enough time to put applications in and you protest because it's an emergency and it's happening now. So they blamed the students who were victimized in this attack. And it's fucked up. The national press ignored it until they couldn't any longer. So I know Breaking Points did a segment on it. The Intercept really did a good deep dive. It's worth looking into. The Times, I think New York Times reported on it too, but I didn't read that article. So this is
the World Socialist website that I have up. I don't know if you can see the headline, just so people to know the headline that you see on the screen. This is from the World Socialist website. They also covered it. So I'll put this link in the description box for those. But go ahead, Professor.
Yeah,
Anthony?
and so that happened. And so listen, there continues to be protests because there continues to be genocide, right? So this is not a hard I wonder why this won't stop. I've had other faculty who said to me, well, gee, I just think this is probably going to go away. Last year they said it, next semester. And I said, the genocide isn't stopping. Why would the protest stop? And I'll say this, all these students, especially the social workers, I teach in the School of Social Work, take social justice and human rights very seriously. And then what's happened is when they hold their protests and their teach-ins, there are some students and at least one faculty who have claimed that just the mere sight of a protest is harmful to them. These are people who are supporting Israel unconditionally, and that they have made complaints that the chants are anti-Semitic, and they're not. They have made complaints that the mere presence of Palestinian flags is anti-Semitic, and it is not. You pulled up that Barnard article.
Yes, I can pull that back up, sir.
For those that don't know, Barnard College is a women's college in Manhattan that is considered a college of Columbia University. Barnard just recently, within the past week, has banned students from displaying anything on their dorm room doors. This was because some students, pro-Israeli, anti-Palestinian students, complained, apparently, that they were harmed and felt isolated when they saw flyers for protests or Palestinian flags. So let's be really clear. Oh, and then there's this other piece, and it dovetails in. There are a group of students and faculty. Again, I don't know if it's more than the one faculty, which I'll mention in a minute. He's beyond explanation, who have filed a lawsuit against Columbia, charging them with not protecting students on campus from anti-Semitism. And some of the things they cite are the fact that there are pro-Palestine protests, that is anti-Semitism to them. The fact that people have chanted from the river to the sea, which they say equals the genocide of all Jews. It does not. So there's a lawsuit against the university. And one of the guys that's been the loudest is this business professor, Shai Davidai. And every day he is on there calling anybody who protests for Palestine or stands for the people who are being genocide as terrorist supporters. And he's used that language. He's even shown video footage of students attempted to dox them. He's been accused of attempting to dox them. He admitted to unfairly targeting a student. These are his words, that he was regretful, I'm paraphrasing, that he targeted a particular student who had been protesting. Some of these students, one of our social work students, has lost multiple family members in Palestine. She was also one of the victims of the chemical attack. And these students who have lost and are mourning the deaths of their cousins and their extended family are protesting. And these are Palestinian Americans, and they're being called terrorists, terrorist supporters, the whole deal. So
let me read his this tweet for those listening. You said this is a faculty member.
Yeah,
and this is his tweet. School. The pro-Hamas gaslighting is exhausting. Don't be fooled by all the lies spewed by students for justice in Palestine and their tokenized Jewish voices for peace. He goes on to say the protests at Columbia and other universities are not about Hamas war in Gaza. They have never been about the Hamas war in Gaza, really. None of the deaths, I guess. The two suspended organizations at Columbia, and we just mentioned them, SJP and JVP, started protesting before a single soldier entered Gaza. So this was back in 1940 something? 1946 is he talking about? When is he talking about? Actually, no, they entered Gaza in the 70s. So what is he talking about? Because if he's just simply meaning before October 7th, they were there in Gaza way before that, sir. Controlling the entry point and out in anything going out of Gaza means you control Gaza.
Yeah.
This is such a phony. But anyway, let me continue what he says. The two suspended organizations signed a letter in support of Hamas, quote, while they were still slaughtering Israeli civilians. They published a letter on October 9th. Don't let them gaslight you. The two suspended organizations at Columbia say they oppose the war. They don't. What they oppose is Israel's response to the war that Hamas started. This is line with everything they have stood for in the past. This is the line with everything they have stood for in the past. SJP and JVP have for years glorified terrorists, Don't let them gaslight you. Wow, this guy goes on. This is the last one. People
holy cow.
who want peace don't chant Intifada revolution. Yes, they do. People who want peace don't chant Palestinians will be Arab.
Palestine will be Arab.
Palestine will be Arab. That means you don't want peace. Palestine, people who want peace don't chant death to Zionist state. Really? I want peace and I say death to any Zionist state. This is a through and through Zionist. It sounds like to me, Anthony, it sounds like a through and through Zionist. Like I bleed Zionism, and on the level of the of the Jonathan Greenblatts, on the level of the Rabbi Shmuleys, it feels like that's what this guy is like. But go ahead.
Yeah, here's the thing. When he first started targeting and harassing students, as a fellow faculty member, I called him out. And I said, you have the right to believe anything you want when it comes to this conflict. Right? I'll call it a genocide. You can say it's not. You have every right to have an opinion. You don't have a right to put video up showing students and then calling them terrorists or terrorist supporters, knowing that that could increase the likelihood that they may be victims of violence. That is it. And I said, I don't want you to, I'm not expecting you to change your mind. I just want you to stop. And he hasn't stopped. He's increased the attacks.
Good Lord.
And now
this is all he's tweeting about? This is all he's tweeting about.
Listen, he is what he is.
He seems to be an unhinged person who is mentally incapable of hearing another perspective because he's so triggered by his own self-beliefs.
Well, I can't diagnose from afar, but I would say I find the tenor of his posts very troubling. And the fact that he admitted, he said it was a mistake, that he targeted a student, that he really ripped into the one student. He showed a video of the student speaking. This guy had lost family members in Palestine. Let the man mourn his dead cousins that were blown apart by Israel's bombs supplied by the United States. So then there's this other thing, Students for Justice in Palestine and the Columbia chapter and Jewish Voices for Peace, who this professor called tokenized. Talk about anti-Semitic. That is one of the most horrible, bigoted things you can say is you don't like someone's view, you call them a token. Like, give me a break. Anyway, those two groups were banned by Columbia administration on the campus. Now, New York Civil Liberties Union is saying they are going to sue Columbia to reinstate SJP and Jewish Voices for Peace because it's completely about free speech. They're only banning these groups who dared to stand up and say, stop the genocide, end the occupation. And I have to give it to these students. Columbia is not an easy school, right? They're dealing with their studies. There's a whole bunch for them to do. My social work students, in addition to their studies, have a practicum, which is like an internship, which is hours and hours a week. So these students are hard workers, and they're still not going to sit idly by while a genocide happens. And then they get threatened by administration because they're raising their voice. It's really hard. I have to say, these students are simply amazing. And the fact that, this faculty member, tweet all you want about Israel. You believe what you believe. But leave the students alone. Stop harassing them. By the way, one of the students who was gassed by the skunk spray and had medical complications because of it was the person who put the video up of the former Obama administration State Department official who went on a racist rant to a falafel vendor in New York City. He ended up getting arrested for it because this student outed him. These students are heroes. And Student activism is nothing new, especially to Columbia. Columbia was the first university in the 1980s to divest its pension fund from businesses that had holdings in business in South Africa, because they were protesting against South African apartheid. Now the students have grouped together and are pushing divestment from the genocidal regime of Israel. And there's precedent for this. How can Columbia say, like, well, you can't push this? You acquiesced to the demands of these students and faculty members in the 80s when it came to South African apartheid, which is nowhere nearly as bloody and deadly as what's happening in Gaza right now. So it's really sad that students standing up are being attacked. Oh, one other thing. This is unbelievable, too, just to make Kit's head explode a little more.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
A pro-Zionist, pro-Israeli group has paid for trucks to ride up and down like Amsterdam and Broadway outside of the school with photos of the students.
Yo.
Doxing them.
You can't do that.
They're doing it. And so it's just, and these poor students, like, they're, who's the guy? I can't remember his name. He was the one who was really pissed at Harvard and helped get that president fired. Well,
the guy from Barstool Sports?
No, he's like he's a billionaire. Anyway.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. His wife got caught out for plagiarism. I forget his name, though. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but he's behind this movement to dox students, telling companies, blacklist them, don't hire them. And so I don't know if he's behind these particular trucks, but he's behind the idea of this stuff. And the particular trucks, they're going up and down and they'll announce it and they'll have images of people. And they don't just say, like, these are pro-Palestine. They label these people as anti-Semite. Oh, Bill Ackman. Thank you, Pittsburgh, dude. Yeah, Bill Ackman has been attempting to blacklist students simply because they protested a genocide. And these groups are labeling any student or faculty member who stands up as anti-Semitic. I'm telling you, New York, the first big protest was Jewish Voices for Peace. Not only are they not anti-Semites, they're literally Jews. And this is just, when your side is losing and you have no truth to stand on, this is what you do. You label, you name call, you call people bigots. We're not bigots.
Wow.
It's just, I'm concerned. I want my students to be okay. And I just want to throw this out. When this all first happened, I told my classes after October 7th and then the Israeli onslaught, I told my students in each class, the world is chaotic. A lot's happened in the past week in the Middle East. I know some of you may have a connection to that part of the world, whether it's Israel or Palestine or other places. I want to hold space for you. I'm sorry you're walking around with pain right now. I want you to be okay, and I want to give you a couple of minutes to talk. I had one Jewish student who said, I've got family in Israel. They had to move to the north. And I don't know much about politics, but all I know is I'm worried and I want them to be okay. And then I had another student who's Muslim, Arab, and she said, I'm afraid to wear my hijab. Like, that's how I approach the issue. They're walking around with this in their heads. And that was before the whole genocide exploded. None of us in this movement are anti-Semitic. This is not what it's about. There are, and anyone who calls everybody who's anti-genocide and anti the Israeli occupation and apartheid, anyone who calls all those folks anti-Semitic is erasing the voices of Jews who have, I can't imagine what it's like to be Jewish and to stand up against this slaughter. It mustn't be easy. You're alienating family members, friends, community members, people at your job, but they're standing up and doing it because it's the right thing. And you've got these horrendous bigots threatening your livelihood, threatening their safety. This is a story that needs to be talked about more. And thank you for letting me go on.
Oh man, I didn't want to. My goodness, I'm still in a state of shock because I went to Northeastern Illinois University, and what I remember all the times, as they're prepping us to get ready for classes, that the faculty, the university, the teachers, the professors are all there supposed to help and protect the students and make the environment welcoming. And yes, there's going to be protests, but why do I feel there's been a huge breach of contract amongst the students and the faculty, especially when you have one professor going after other students and the whole doxing of students? I'm kind of left speechless because their whole lives have been turned upside down, and the way people, especially those who've been pro-Israel and dismissive of the genocide that's happening in Gaza, the lengths at which they're willing to go to suppress people. I mean, recently, I've covered Bassem Youssef on my show, and there are people saying that he is this anti-Semitic person when nothing he said is anti-Semitic. He's like, there's a genocide happening in Gaza. There's unchecked war. I'm just in a state of shock. Just the amount of boundaries that are being crossed here, and the harm that's coming to people who are speaking out against a clear genocide that's happening in Gaza.
Absolutely. We're gonna go to just final sort of comments for both of you guys and get both of you guys out of here. And I knew it was gonna be a long stream today because there's a lot to talk about, and I only streamed once this week or twice this week, and I just had a lot of stories to cover. But that last story with Columbia University is one that is a needed discussion. So thanks for bringing that here, Professor. We can start with you, Anthony. What are your final words for the stream, and then where can people find you? And then I'll drop you to the back, and then
you can always find me on X, Twitter, saying whatever I say, and trying to link to things. I want to do a shout out for March 2nd. There will be Palestinian solidarity demonstrations and rallies all across the country and actually all across the world, standing up against the threatened slaughter which Israel is threatening to do in Rafah, the last place of refuge, where over 1 million Palestinians are huddled together. And that March 2nd, if you look, I want to make sure I give the web address out right now for folks. A lot of the stuff, like their Instagram accounts, have been shut down. Within our lifetimes, Palestine had their Instagram account completely shut down, no explanation. And they were a New York City based, they are a New York City based group that has really put together most of the protests in the New York area on this. And I'm giving right now just the information on the March 2nd rally, because I think it's important. I have it pulled up on my phone. It is, the web address is shutitdownforpalestine.org, and it's the number 4. So shutitdown, number 4, palestine.org, and you can find out where there will be a protest near the closest city to you Saturday, March 2nd, to stand against the coming invasion, hopefully not, of Rafah. And I just think that's the most important thing. And to all you students and others who are out there protesting and refusing to be silent, thank you. And we are with you.
Rock on, man.
Yeah, go ahead, Kit. I just put up the tweet that you were talking about as you were talking. Just put up the tweet so people can see.
Yeah.
If you scroll up, it'll show the web address.
Absolutely. I'll scroll up. Go ahead, Kit. You can take over.
Sure thing. And by the way, Professor, I would like to have you on my show as well and have a conversation with you. So let's private message me. We're more than happy to have you on. But for everyone that's watching, if you want to check out Hard Lens Media, we are live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Central on YouTube, Rumble, Rockfin, Odyssey, and Kick. We have a TV show on Can TV that goes on every Saturday at 10 p.m. where all our interviews go. Really looking forward to covering the DNC convention here in Chicago. More on that very soon. I know there's been a lot of people in independent media that's been reaching out to me to collaborate. So more on that. Hopefully we'll have a good battle plan going forward. And besides that, I've been working on a few other side projects here and there, and just really happy just overall the intense support that we got. And we are prevailing. We are pushing forward. And again, CJ and RBN, everybody, the whole crew at RBN, you guys keep on speaking truth to power. And I'm forever grateful for your support and to call you a colleague and a friend.
Yeah, just CJ, the address comes up in a second on this video. There it is. Shut it down for Palestine.org. And yeah, I'd love to be on your show, Kit. You let me know.
Done deal. Done deal. Private message me because I got to do some work right now, but be more than happy to get that situated right away.
Yes. All right, gentlemen, I will put both of you in the back. You can see the address to what Anthony was talking about. Thank you, Kit and Anthony. I'm sure they'll be back on in a couple weeks or so. We like to have, these are two of the people we like to have be in conversation with all the time. And you see the address there. There's just a couple of things I still wanted to cover just to show you, because I don't want you to think it's clickbait. And that's the issue with the tweet with Briahna. And then there's another tweet. So there's two tweets I need to make sure I cover before we get out of here, just so you know this wasn't clickbait. It just happened to be a long stream. And that's the crazy Rabbi Schmuley. If you haven't heard, Rabbi Schmuley not only is a fierce advocate for Zionism, that's not his only stick, right? He is not just a fierce advocate for Zionism. He is also a fierce advocate for making love and war. Make love and war is what he says in his tweet. And this is Rabbi Schmuley selling kosher lubricant. Let's listen.
Hi, everyone. This is absolutely amazing, and I had to do something about it immediately. First time I saw it, kosher sex, my shemen, kosher lubricant, made in Israel. I love that part. Here, where is it? Where's the made in Israel? On the box, it's like a big Magen David. We're so proud of this. I've devoted my life to passionate marriages, passionate monogamy, rescuing marriages. Today I just dealt with, so sad, young children being subject to an unnecessary divorce, like I was. Unnecessary because the parents just don't want to change their behavior. But having a passionate erotic sexual connection and maintaining attraction is the very soul, the lifeblood of a marriage. So this is kosher, my shemen, kosher lubricant for husbands and wives to have greater pleasure, greater passion. And for those of you who can't handle it, tough luck. I couldn't care less, because creating passionate marriages and healthy sexuality and intimate sexuality is what Judaism is all about. It's all based on the book of Genesis, the most romantic verse ever written. Genesis chapter 2, verse 24. Therefore shall a man leave his father and leave his mother, meaning, once you get married, your wife, she's leave your father, leave him. He shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall become one flesh. Cleave, intimacy. The purpose of sex is not procreational, just to have kids. It's not recreational, just to have fun and then dump each other and make each other feel like crap. It's rather intimacy. It's to become bone of one bone, flesh of one flesh. And we're so proud of this. And there'll be more kosher sex products. Go to my daughter Chana's _kosher_sex. Go to her website, kosher.sex. Made in Israel. So proud of this. Hold on one second. I just want to find the made in Israel thing. I love that part. And on the box, even more so. Amazing. Where is it? Yeah, it's here. Yeah, made in Israel. Licensed by the Israeli Ministry of Health. I love this. I love this. And like I said, on the box, it says made in Israel, even bigger. I love it. Get yours now. Kosher sex, my shemen. Woohoo!
Woohoo! You guys feeling sexy now? Now, of course, just having lubricant is not what's funny. It's that knowing what all this guy believes, knowing the ridiculous stuff that he spews, specifically like latest has been with the debate with normal Finkelstein. We're not going to cover that today, maybe another day, but what is like with this debate, he's a clown. And him selling this is just another gimmick. Just like Zionism is a gimmick to him, this is just a gimmick to him because he's a gimmicky sutter guy. But let's read what he says, because when I say love and war, I didn't make that up. This is his own words, how he describes himself. So let's read what he says here in the tweet. So proud of my brand new kosher sex product, Kosher Lubricants, made in Israel. We are making marriages hot and intimate, passionate and monogamous. Kosher sex is the future of all human relationships. This is where he says, make love and war. And my daughter, I think that is Shana, is donating these married Israeli soldiers, donating these two, because it's a typo, I should say two, these Israeli soldiers. So that is Rabbi Schmuley. Isn't that fantastic, guys? Don't you love Rabbi Schmuley? And his sex tape, or it's not sex tape, but God forbid, he better not have a sex tape. But his sex lubricant selling. Let's listen to just a smidget of the conversation he had with Norman Finkelstein. Let's listen to the debate. Norman has already announced another debate. Norman has already, I think, today he announced another debate that he's going to be having soon. So I guess he's now the debate bro. So let's listen.
Strikes
well,
the
they're killing a lot of children.
Lives because Hamas lives under their homes.
If Israel's
Hamas builds.
Rabbi Shmuley, with respect, if Israel's being that precise, why is it killing so many children?
Firstly, I want to know what is the accuracy of your numbers, because I trust Hamas as much as I trust they're complete liars. Secondly,
that's so
Hamas
old now.
Unfortunately wants these children to die, because the more that die, the more you're going to challenge me on TV. Israel wants them to live. Israel withdrew in 2005. Hamas builds their military installations under these children's homes, under their kindergartens, under their nurseries, under their hospitals.
All right, let me
now
bring in.
found 350 miles of tunnels under children's homes. That's the size of the New York subway system.
I want to be fair to both sides on time. Norma Finkelstein, your response.
What would you like me to respond to?
I suppose the analogy with World War II and the fact that indisputably, many hundreds of thousands, if not millions of civilians died in that conflict. And the argument is it was for the greater good of defeating the Nazis. Do you see any parallel with wanting, and I completely understand Israel's fervent desire to eliminate Hamas after what they did on October the 7th, particularly as Hamas has stated again and again, they want to keep repeating it again and again. So on that particular argument about when you wage a war against whether it's the Nazis or Hamas, a lot of civilians tragically will get killed in the process, but ultimately that shouldn't stop you going ahead with the war to try and achieve your goal. What do you say to that?
What I would say to that is there's a very good reason why this case was brought before the International Court of Justice. That is, as I'm sure you know, that if you examine what Israel has done in Gaza since October 7th, by virtually every dimension you examine it, the intensity of the bombing, the density of the bombing, the magnitude of destruction of civilian dwellings, civilian infrastructure, the percentage, the absolute number of children killed, the relative number of children killed to combatants killed, the percentage of women and children versus men killed, the number of medical personnel killed, the number of journalists killed, the number of UN workers killed. By virtually every dimension that you examine the conflict, by virtually any and every metric that you examine the conflict, Israel's assault on Gaza, which we should bear in mind is among the most densely populated places on God's earth, and it has been sealed off from humanity since 2006. As Giora Island put it in March 2004, Giora Island was the head of the Israeli National Security Council. He described Gaza, and I'm quoting him now, as a huge concentration camp. That's not me. That's Giora Island. The former.
And what I like about the debate, you got to watch the entire debate, is how Norman just calmly destroys you with information. See, what Pierce was probably thinking is going to have happen is have these two Jewish guys yelling at each other over this, and he has good TV. Conflict, it sells very, very easily on TV. This is why they have the news set up the way they have. Democratic strategies, Republican strategies, just conflict. But Norman had he wasn't a willing participant in that framing. He just came on and calmly destroyed Rabbi. But like I said, we'll cover this another time. Let me show you the final part of this story before I show you Briahna Joy Gray's tweet. But this is the final part of this story, and that is this headline. Just oops, did I share? I didn't even share it. My bad, everybody. Didn't even share. All right, let's move. Close. This is the headline here. You can actually, so this is actually a real thing. It's not a gimmick. It's, stories have been written about it. This is just one of them you can go check out on Jerusalem Post. Actually, Jerusalem Post, a real actual Israeli-based publication. It says kosher lubricant made in Israel by Rabbi Schmuley Botich. And that's his full name. So the company Kosher Sex has created products with the aim of encouraging individuals to explore their sexuality in a kosher way. This is a real thing. We may find it hilarious coming from this guy who looks like the leprechaun from the horror movie, but it is a real thing. And check it out. It's funny. But we're going to end with another funny sort of story. And we're going to go back to Twitter. And this is just showing you a tweet. Because what's her name? Oh, Briahna Joy Gray, when it comes to being the left representative for establishment types to attack, Briahna Joy Gray is like one of the main faces for those attacks. You see a lot of people in the establishment sort of go after her. There being a lot of establishment people. I forget the guy named Joe. I forget his last name, but he was on there one time and went on the interview. Everything was fine. But then the next day she tweeted about the episode, just tweeted a clip, and then he got completely demolished. And then there was a whole falling out in public over what happened, but that was just another establishment person sort of calling her out because she is a representative of the Bernie flank that decided to go further left. But because of that, oops, I thought I already had it up. But because of that, she is a target. And this is one of those ratios where you don't really get satisfaction. I can't assume that he gets satisfaction of this ratio because of what the ratio is about. And let me go to what I mean here. Here is, his name is Elie Mystal, or Elie Mystal. I think that's how you say his name. But it's a guy he is on The View a lot. He's on MSNBC a lot. I'm sure you've seen him in a clip. He's the black guy with the salt and pepper fro. That's Elie. He's a famous guy. He's a guy who went viral for saying the Constitution was trash on The View. I hope I'm giving you enough tidbits to know for you to jog your memory on who this person is. But there was a tweet going around in support, a solidarity sort of tweet, where people would say something like what Bree says here. Let me blow it up a little bit. She says, I'm not Palestinian, but I do have morals and will not be voting for a genocide enabler. Now, this was a quote tweet. It's been since deleted, but a quote tweet said the same thing. So people would quote tweet and just repeat what that quote tweet says. I'm not Palestinian, but I do have morals and will not be voting for a genocide enabler. Now, this triggered, needless to say, a lot of establishment people. Now, Bree got 6,500 likes on that, which is a pretty decent number, and you don't typically see ratios above this, meaning someone who will come in and say something about this and then she gets ratio, and especially when it's pro-genocide Joe. But when you're part of the establishment and you've got other establishment types that will retweet you, it's possible. And that's what happens here with Elie Mystal. He says in response to Bree this: okay, abortion bans for everybody, I guess. I too would like purity tests, and I'm going to defend the administration. But when the Krystal fascists take over and give embryos more rights than people, I want to be able to say that I did what I could to stop the Christian fascists. Well, why can't Bree say I did what I could to stop the genocide enabler? Couldn't she say that? Now, he actually ratios her on this tweet, which is astonishing to me. But again, this is an establishment guy, and the more establishment people saw this, and any attack on this person who went awry, because that's how Bree's looked at by these people, by other Harvard people. There are Harvard people who was with the establishment, and they're mad that there's a Harvard person, a person with a Harvard degree, who went to the dark side, according to them. And there's more reaction. So you see him react there. There's more that he says. He says a lot of dumb stuff. Now, let me go down. Now, Bree says this. She also gets ratioed here, believe it or not, by a guy who claims to be Palestinian. But this is an Americanized Palestinian. He says, I'm Palestinian. Trump is worse on Israel than Biden. If you don't vote for Biden, you're voting for genocide. Now, just take a step back on this. This guy who has like 2,000 followers ratios Briahna. Of course, there's a lot of establishment types that prop him up in his tweet. There's a bunch of people, famous people, who retweets this, and there's a reason why it happens. Because anytime you can point out a coon, this would be like a black person's coming out and saying Trump is more racist than Joe Biden. A coon comes out, only a coon would say that. And I would imagine Palestinians have coons too. Because I don't know too many Palestinians who have family members who are dying who would say that Biden is better than Trump, who is not in office, who's not facilitating. You can say all you want that he has the same ideology. What you can't say is he is physically participating in a genocide. So for a quote-unquote Palestinian, a so-called Palestinian, to come on and make that point that a hypothetical genocider is worse than a current person who's facilitating actual genocide is absurd. But apparently there is some sellout Palestinians who have this point of view, as this person here. But anyway, that's not the point. Here is Elie in a couple of different videos here I wanted to show you, just so you know who he is. I'm sure you've seen him before. Here is Elie Mystal. I think that's how you say his name.
You've been tweeting.
Just so you can remember who he is. This Twitter is acting up. I clicked on the video and it takes me somewhere else here. So this is so crazy how they do the videos.
What's happening this week? I said, I cannot wait to have Elie with me on the show this Saturday. You've been tweeting passionately about the Roe decision since yesterday. You pointed out that Biden called out Congress to codify abortion, but you say there are things the federal government can do right now to protect these rights as well. And I think everyone wants to hear from you. What exactly can they do? What should they be doing?
Okay, so there's the first thing out of the box from the Biden administration needs to be providing abortion services at federal facilities, right? We can do this by leasing the federal facilities to people willing to provide abortions out of their own pocket. That should get around the Hyde Amendment. There are federal facilities in every state, including the states who are about to force women to give birth against their will, and that is the first thing out of the box from the Biden administration. Now, Biden indicated that he would make abortion medication available. He didn't really say how, he didn't really say when. Again, that's an easy fix. He should, at federal facilities, like if you can go to your CVS, you should be able to now go to your post office and get your medication because, again, there are federal facilities in every state. So Biden has a lot of power of things that he can do, even within the Hyde Amendment, to say nothing of repealing the Hyde Amendment. Biden was a 3-decade supporter of the Hyde Amendment until he ran for president for the third time. Apparently now he doesn't support the Hyde Amendment, but in last year's budget, because the Hyde Amendment has to be re-upped every budget cycle, they tried to take the Hyde Amendment out. Republicans said no, Biden caved. So maybe this time, for the 2023 budget, Biden could not cave and actually repeal the Hyde Amendment, which would further unleash federal monies to and abilities to provide the services that the Supreme Court has taken away. Now, obviously, federal protections are limited. Executive branch protections are limited because the next election, who knows who's president, and those all go away. So yes, there needs to be codification of Roe by Congress, but let's not forget, and I've said this before, and I hate to be like the Debbie Downer here, but what makes people think that this radical conservative Supreme Court, which just thumbed its nose at 50 years of settled legal precedent, would allow a congressional law protecting Roe v. Wade? I'll tell you the answer. They won't. They will overturn that law before breakfast. So if you want to get serious about protecting women's rights and the rights of the LGBT community and the rights of non-believers, then you have to expand the Supreme Court. So when I hear...
So you heard all of the things that Elie said should happen by the Biden administration in protection of abortion rights. Because remember, that is the thing he's using to hit Briahna Joy Gray over the head, figuratively, about Genocide Joe, is abortion rights. So you're saying voting for Joe is going to guarantee some sort of abortion rights. Now, the things that you listed, Elie, has Joe Biden done any of those things that you say he can do in support of abortion rights? Has he done any of them? I'll wait, because he hasn't. No. The answer to that is no. He hasn't done any of those things. So let's get this straight. The person who has all of these things, Elie, you said in his power that he can do to combat this terrible ruling by the Supreme Court, which he hasn't done, you want to make sure he's back in office, or you want us to vote, forget our conscience and say, forget the genocide participation and vote because of abortion rights that he's not even willing to go the extra mile for himself. You see the framing of this? How people, now we're all for abortion rights, but for people to pretend like voting for Democrats is somehow a feather in your abortion rights strategy is ridiculous. What are they exactly going to do? They don't have even enough people to do what they say they want to do in codifying abortion rights. They don't have 60 votes in the Senate to do that. So what they're telling you is just vote for people who virtue signal that they have the same opinions as you on abortion. Now, I wanted to show you that. And let's go back and finish out their reaction to this, because Bree responds. And then he responds. And then he responds. So you see what he says. Bree, let me scroll down. And Bree responds to this. And she says this. Sir, I love how she says, sir, I'm the one with a functioning uterus. Solidarity means we stand together to ensure all our rights are protected. Throwing vulnerable groups under the bus to protect my rights is exactly how you get fascism. Meaning, throwing vulnerable groups like the Palestinians under the bus just so I can get my rights seems like is exactly how we get fascism. If you want Biden to win, you should push him to end a genocide, not berate women with the claim that you care more about reproductive rights than they do, which is a great comeback. I thought he responded. Yeah, he does respond. And then he says, you mean this? And it's just an article that he wrote, by the way, that says Biden's Israel Palestinian policy could cost him the election. That's from Political, because I covered that actual article. That's how I know that's where that's from. So you see the reaction. You see the technical ratio, but that is not at all what is cracked up to be. And there's one other thing, because he tweeted something else that he deleted. This too. And he got absolutely destroyed. This is what he says. You know, I'm not going to tell Palestinian voters to vote for Biden. I'm really not. I won't. What I am going to do is tell white voter who couldn't find Gaza on a map 6 months ago to miss me with their work from home, slack of vision, and choose the lesser evil. So, because somebody had no idea that an apartheid was going on in occupied Palestine, and because a person who can't point to Gaza on the map, because that person can't do any of that, that person can't protest against a genocide. This is the logic from the professional managerial class. You can't point to Rwanda, then don't freaking advocate for Rwanda. You can't point to where Somalia is, then won't worry about the conflicts that's going on in Somalia. How absurd is this logic that Elie spews? And he's considered the progressive. When he is invited on shows, he is the left guy. When he comes on The View, he's the far left guy. When he goes on MSNBC, he's the far left guy. Just astonishing. And he rightfully gets dragged for this tweet. Here is Due Dissident saying, so if you're Palestinian, don't vote for the president who's murdering your people. But if you're white, shut up and vote for the president who's murdering Palestinians. This is the logic of the liberal class. That's Due Dissidents chiming in. And here is Margaret Kimberly. Some deleted tweets should live on, because he deleted this tweet. Yeah, he absolutely deleted this tweet. And is there another reaction? I think that's the last one. All right, that is the last one. This one right here was a funny. Now, this is a different reaction. This is not a positive reaction. This is not a positive reaction for Bree. But this is somebody, I guess, who's agreeing. Well, anyway, let me just read it. And it's kind of a bizarre tweet. It says, Marxists in disarray. Who's a Marxist? Bree is an accelerist. Bree? While Elie still adheres to harm reduction principles, this tension amongst leftists is ongoing with accelerationism ascendant. Always leftists are the reason why the Supreme Court of the United States is going to be right-wing for 2 generations. Here's a newsflash. The Supreme Court was right-wing before that. The Supreme Court has always been right-wing. Just because the Supreme Court is divided amongst party lines on a handful of social issues, they agree on war. They agree on corporatization. They agree on corporate corruption. They agree on 97% of the rulings that they make. But I thought that was just a bizarre tweet there. But anyway, it's time for me to get going here. This was a super long stream. As long as I got a lot done, I guess is all that matters. But again, this was a super, super, super long stream that I haven't done one this long in a long, long time. I've been meaning to cover this. I'm now facing that I'm likely not going to be able to cover this video when they finally had to admit about Marianne Williamson dropping out. I've been wanting to cover it. I thought I would get to it today, but this is the story that's falling off the map for today, and I'm probably not going to get to cover it since I wasn't going to able to cover it in this super long stream for our stream today. So I'll play it at the end of the video. Put up where you're from in the comments, and I'll toss your comment up. Put up where you are from, the city, the state, the country, along whatever else you wanted to type about whatever story you wanted to comment. But it has to include where you're from in order for me to put it up. I'll play that. I'll put those comments up as we play this outro video to get us out. There is no new super chat, so I don't need to go to super chats. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. I'm headed out. I'm going to take my wife out for her birthday. It's not today, but it's during the week. But, take her out on the weekend because we have to work the grind during the week. Happy birthday to my baby. And here is the video.
Big news. Marianne Williamson. Campaign over.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Officially suspended. I mean, I just have to say, I have nothing for love for Marianne as a human being, for the courage that she showed at a time when no one else was willing to step out at the incoming that she has taken. So, I mean, listen, I could nitpick about this or that or, issues that I would have approached. I think she deserves all of the respect and admiration in the world for being willing to take this on. I think she has exposed what an anti-democratic shambles the Democratic Party is. I mean, it's just from the jump, collaborating with their media organs, making sure she didn't get a good fair hearing, that people had no idea she was even running, that, there were states where they just decided we're just not even going to have a primary. We're just going to anoint Joe Biden. So kudos to her for putting herself out there and doing everything she possibly could to give Democratic voters and the American people a choice, especially, Kyle, at a time when how many videos are we seeing on a daily basis now of Joe Biden completely unable to formulate a basic thought or telling stories about foreign leaders that died decades ago, thinking that they're still alive and well, or not able to even find the word Hamas in order to explain his response on a potential ceasefire. It's just, when you look at this, you're like, what the hell are we doing? And so, just absolute kudos to her at this point for having had the courage to at least give it a shot.
So just a few things to point out real quick.
Yeah.
She and her campaign were blocked from getting voter data in various states after already paying for it.
That's right.
And then they refused to give any sort of refund after the fact. She was blocked from talking to various college Democrat groups in various states. As you alluded to, there were 4 so far Democratic primaries where they canceled it up front. In one instance in Florida, everybody went. It was Dean Phillips, Marianne Williamson, Cenk Uygur went to go sign up on a certain day, and they go, "Oh, sorry, the date passed." Like, what are you talking about? The date is in like a week from now.
Right.
And they're like, no, but we changed it without telling anybody.
Right.
And so now you can't get on the ballots. These are very, very anti-democratic moves. There's a lot to criticize there. But beyond that, the biggest factor to me, and I think there's legitimate criticisms of her and her campaign. There's certainly things you could point out, like, hey, you could have done this better or that better. But to me, the biggest factor was, I always say this about the media. The difference between the media loving you and hating you, it's a big deal, but it's not that big of a deal, because as long as you're getting some noise around your campaign, it can spark a backlash effect where people start to love you, even if the media is shitting on you 24/7.
Yeah.
In the case of Marianne, what I feared the most is what happened, which is total indifference, wall of indifference. They pretend like you don't exist. And in a scenario like that, it's pretty much impossible to break through.
That's right.
So after watching this campaign, my takeaway from it, and I've said this on my show as well, is that I fear that in order for a lefty to actually win, it needs to be either somebody who's super undeniable, like Bernie Sanders, who was a senator for 312 years before he ran, because it's like, he's a senator. What are you going to do? He's just serious in the political game, whether or not you want to acknowledge it. I think they could even disregard and disrespect Congress people. That's what happened with Dean Phillips. They're like, you're a peon. You're nobody. Get out of here. You would either need a senator or you would need an A-list celebrity, maybe a B-list celebrity you can get away with, in order to break through. So if somebody like Jon Stewart ran, the media wouldn't be able to keep the cameras off of Jon Stewart because he's super entertaining. He already has that gravitas and charisma about him.
Right.
And so that would be undeniable. But after watching this unfold, that really is my ultimate conclusion, is that they are always going to disrespect the left. They're always going to swap the left aside, act like you're unserious, act like your candidates are ridiculous, pay you no mind whatsoever. I think they actually learned the lesson of Bernie Sanders a little bit when they realized our hate fest almost didn't work, that, you know, he still got like 45% of the vote with us hating on him relentlessly.
True.
So they went the path of indifference, which they felt like they could get away with when it comes to Marianne Williamson.
Yeah.
And so, you know, like I said, the way out of it, I think you need either a senator who can sneak in and be taken seriously, or an A-list celebrity. And at that point, I'll take either the love from the media or the hate, because either one, I think, will create a backlash effect and make it so that people, you know, actually give this lefty candidate a chance. But to your point, yeah, Biden can't even talk anymore. Every day it's a new gaffe. Every day his policies get worse and worse. And I do think, look, I hope I'm wrong about this, but I do think there will come a time where people look back and they go, damn, Marianne Williamson and Dean Phillips were kind of right. And they were stepping up to the plate here when nobody else would.
I mean, they've never looked more prescient than right now. And I think it's only going to become more clear that they were canaries in the coal mine. I mean, they were sounding warnings that are coming true before our eyes. I mean, not only, listen, Dean is basically, and this is why it's not just about the left, it's just anyone who was going to challenge Joe Biden, because Dean Phillips is not a leftist.
Right.
And his whole case is basically like, I agree with Joe Biden on basically everything.
I'm just young.
But this guy is about to die before our eyes, and he's going to lose to Donald Trump. And check. Like, it's really very difficult to deny at this point. Biden is losing in every key swing state. There's no real plan to make up that ground. This is the first time since 2004 a Republican has consistently led in the national polls. It's just utterly pathetic. As I mentioned before, you know, we're watching in real time as his brain like melts out of his ears. It's sad. It's getting to the point now, it's getting to like Dianne Feinstein levels, where I don't even feel angry as much at him as I do the people around him who are enabling this as effective elder abuse. Like, that's the level that we're getting to in terms of what his public appearances look like. So absolutely right there. But then also on the policy front, you know, it's never been more clear that the more leftist positions that Marianne has staked out, where she has, you know, made clear breaks from Joe Biden on economics and on foreign policy, that is also incredibly important and was also incredibly prescient. So, like I said, nothing but kudos and admiration to her. And also, listen, Dean Phillips, we had, you know, back and forth with him on Israel. I had that with him a couple of times, but kudos to him also for stepping in and being willing to do it. You know, the fact that he was a congressman that no one really heard of meant that he also could be basically ignored. And to your point, Kyle, you know, CNN, they gave town halls to every Tom, Dick, and Harry who stepped up in the Republican side, whether they're getting 0% of the vote or 1% of the vote or whatever. Marianne and Dean Phillips at times were polling, you know, significantly higher than that in the Democratic primary, and it just was completely ignored. MSNBC didn't even have Dean Phillips on until after the South Carolina primary was already over, and had the nerve to be to him like, oh, well, why didn't you do better? He's like, this is literally the first time your viewers even learned that I existed. Rachel Maddow had some segment, You know, I think on the night of New Hampshire, where she was joking around about, oh, I'm so proud of myself that I know Dean Phillips' name because he's so irrelevant. And she's called Marianne Williams, got her name completely wrong. It's just utter contempt and indifference.